My mom canceled my wedding cake so my sister's bridal shower could have a bigger one. She laughed on the phone and told me I probably would not even notice if she had not said anything. At my own wedding reception, I stood up, took the microphone, and delivered one single sentence to the crowd. My mother fainted right there on the polished hardwood dance floor. Before I tell you what I said into that microphone, if you know what it feels like to be the daughter your family uses instead of loves, please like this video and subscribe to Eva Tells Stories. Drop your age in the comments so I know who is listening. Now let me take you back to 3 weeks before my wedding day. The day a $5 grocery store cupcake changed the trajectory of my entire life. I am sitting in the driver's seat of my Honda in a strip mall parking lot in Indianapolis. The air conditioning hums against the damp afternoon heat. Raindrops hit the windshield. I am chewing on a plastic-wrapped vanilla cupcake from the bakery aisle. The cheap frosting coats the roof of my mouth and leaves a greasy residue on my thumb. I wipe my thumb against the steering wheel leather as a voicemail plays over my car Bluetooth. The voice belongs to Elise, the owner of a boutique bakery downtown. Elise sounds hesitant. She breathes in sharp before speaking. "Hi, Sadie. I am just calling to confirm the cancellation of your rustic tiered cake. Brenda moved the $800 deposit over to Harper's bridal shower order. We are finalizing the 5-tier fondant design for her tomorrow. I just wanted to make sure we are all on the same page." The voicemail ends. The dashboard screen glows blue. The silence in the car presses against my ears. Harper is my younger sister. She is 25. I am 28. I work as a data analyst. I organize numbers, look for anomalies, and build predictive models. My brain automatically processes the timeline. Elise needs a design tomorrow. Harper's bridal shower is next weekend. My wedding is in 21 days. My mother, Brenda, took my cake deposit without a single text or phone call. I do not scream. I do not hit the steering wheel. Crying is a currency Brenda uses to measure her power, and I stopped paying her a long time ago. I tap the screen and press dial. Brenda answers on the second ring. The sound of clinking glass and polite chatter fills the background. She is at her country club. "Sadie, sweetheart, I am right in the middle of a luncheon. Make it fast." "Elise just called," I say. My voice stays flat and measured. "She mentioned my wedding cake is now Harper's bridal shower cake." A sharp, dismissive sigh travels through the speaker. "Oh, Elise is so dramatic. I told her not to bother you with the logistics. We had to pivot, Sadie." Harper's future in-laws are flying in from New York. They expect a certain standard of entertaining. A bridal shower sets the tone for the wedding. "You canceled my wedding cake for her shower. Your reception is a barn aesthetic. A giant cake would look ridiculous sitting next to those wooden crates Liam built. Harper is marrying into the Sinclair family. We need a 5-tier centerpiece." Brenda takes a sip of something. Ice clinks against the rim of her glass. "Besides, you are not a dessert person. You probably would not even notice it was missing if Elise had not told you. You probably would not even notice it was missing." Those words settle into the base of my neck. It is the core philosophy of how Brenda views my existence. Sadie the reliable. Sadie the unbothered. Sadie the one who absorbs the losses so Harper can shine. "Okay," I say. "Okay what?" Brenda asks. Her tone shifts, probing for the fight she expects me to bring. "Enjoy your luncheon." I hang up. I drop the remaining half of the cheap cupcake back into its plastic container. The sugar taste turns sour on my tongue. As a data analyst, I know that one anomaly in a spreadsheet usually points to a systemic failure. If Brenda felt comfortable stealing an $800 deposit, she felt comfortable doing other things. I open my banking app on my phone. I navigate to the legacy custodial account I share with her, the one she convinced me to keep open because it linked to her elite tier status for VIP vendor discounts. I swipe down to refresh. The screen loads. A spinning wheel turns for 2 seconds. The numbers materialize. I stare at the screen and my lungs forget how to pull in air. The red font on the banking application screen stares back at me. Minus $14,485.88. The line item details a wire transfer processed at 9 in the morning. The destination routing number belongs to an entity labeled Harper & Company Event Planning. My lungs refuse to expand. The damp Indianapolis heat presses against the car windows, but my hands grip the steering wheel like ice. That money was the accumulation of 2 years of careful saving. Liam and I worked overtime, skipped vacations, and packed lunches to build that vendor fund. It was meant to pay our caterer, the venue balance, and the florist by the end of the week. The account is empty. The available balance reads $14.12. I do not burst into tears. My mind operates in spreadsheets, in patterns, and in root cause analysis. The root cause is sitting in a 5-bedroom house in Carmel, Indiana. Brenda convinced me to keep this specific legacy custodial account open 3 years ago. I opened it when I was 16, depositing my meager math tutoring wages. Brenda insisted her name remain on the signature card. She claimed the account history linked to her elite country club banking tier, granting me access to superior interest rates and exclusive vendor discounts for the wedding. It was a Trojan horse. She kept her name on the ledger not to protect my assets, but to retain unrestricted access to them. I put the Honda into drive. I pull out of the strip mall parking lot and merge onto U.S. Route 31 North. The transition from the pragmatic grid of the city to the winding, pristine subdivisions of Carmel takes 40 minutes. Carmel is a wealthy enclave where lawns are measured with rulers and reputations are curated like museum exhibits. Growing up here taught me everything I needed to know about optics. Brenda thrives in Carmel. She builds her identity on what her neighbors perceive. I pull into the expansive driveway of my parents' house. The exterior features flawless white brick and towering double oak doors. I walk up the stone pathway, bypass the doorbell, and let myself in. The central air conditioning chills the entryway. The scent of expensive citrus room spray mixes with the wet, earthy smell of fresh-cut foliage. I follow the sound of clipping metal to the kitchen. Brenda stands at the sprawling marble island. She wears a tailored linen blouse. In front of her sit 3 crystal vases and a massive pile of imported blue hydrangeas. She holds a pair of silver pruning shears, trimming the thick green stems at a perfect 45-degree angle. She does not look up when my footsteps echo against the tile. "You should have knocked, Sadie," she says. Her tone carries the mild annoyance of someone interrupted during a crucial task. "Where is my $14,000? My voice is quiet. It slices through the hum of the stainless steel refrigerator. Brenda snaps the shears through another stem. The severed end drops onto the marble. She exhales a long, patient breath, the kind a teacher gives a slow student. "Please do not use such dramatic phrasing," she replies. She places a hydrangea into the tallest vase, adjusting the petals. "It is not your money, Sadie. It is family money. I initiated a temporary resource redistribution." Harper's venue demanded an expanded security deposit because the Sinclair family requires specialized valet services. The bridal shower ballooned the budget. I needed liquid capital this morning. You wired the entire balance of my wedding savings to Harper. Brenda finally looks at me. Her blue eyes hold zero remorse. "Your wedding is in a refurbished barn, Sadie. Liam is wearing a tweed suit. You are serving barbecue. You do not require high-end capital for that aesthetic. The Sinclair family operates in a different stratosphere." If Harper does not deliver a flawless event sequence, she looks incompetent. We are protecting her future. I will refund your little account eventually. When? The caterer needs the final head count and payment in 4 days. Brenda waves her hand, brushing the deadline away like a common housefly. "Just put it on a credit card. You and Liam are young. You have time to absorb the debt." Harper has an image to maintain right now. We all have to make sacrifices for the greater good of the Cooper family name. A shadow shifts near the walk-in pantry. My father, Thomas, steps into the kitchen. He holds a microfiber cloth, hyper-focusing on wiping down a spotless section of the counter. Thomas spent 30 years as a mid-level logistics manager. He survived his career and his marriage by adhering to the path of least resistance. He learned decades ago that keeping the peace meant surrendering to Brenda. "Dad," I say, turning to him, "she stole our vendor money." Thomas stops wiping the counter. He does not look at me. He stares intently at the toes of his leather loafers. His jaw tightens, a brief flicker of discomfort, before his features smooth out into practiced neutrality. "Your mother was in a tight spot, Sadie," he mutters the words to the floorboards. "The Sinclair people are very demanding. Just let her handle the logistics. We will make it right down the road. You know how stressful this season is for her." He scrubs the clean marble again. The betrayal solidifies in my chest. Thomas is not a hostage in this house. He is a silent partner. His refusal to intervene is a deliberate choice to let me drown so he does not have to swim against the current. I look at the hydrangeas. I look at the silver shears in Brenda's hand. The puzzle pieces align perfectly in my data-oriented mind. They view me as a reserve tank. I am not a daughter. I am a contingency plan for Harper's ambitions. I do not raise my voice. I do not demand an apology. Arguing with a void yields zero data. "I am leaving," I state. Brenda smiles, assuming my retreat signifies submission. "Close the front door tight on your way out, sweetheart. The humidity is ruining the orchids in the foyer." The drive back to my apartment takes an hour due to rush hour traffic. The setting sun casts long shadows across the highway. My hands no longer grip the wheel with panic. The cold reality of the situation replaces the shock. I unlock the door to the second-floor apartment I share with Liam. The space smells like roasted garlic and cedar. Liam stands in the kitchen stirring a pot of pasta sauce. He wears his faded gray work shirt. When he turns and sees my face, he sets the wooden spoon down immediately. He crosses the room and wraps his arms around my shoulders. His hands are warm and calloused. "What happened?" he asks. I pull my phone from my pocket. I open the banking app and hand it to him. Liam studies the screen. His eyes trace the red numbers. He reads the routing label for Harper & Company. He does not offer hollow platitudes. He does not tell me everything will magically work out. He hands the phone back to me and looks directly into my eyes. "This is theft," Liam says. His voice holds a quiet, unyielding, steady tone. "She called it a family resource redistribution," I reply. "She told me to put our wedding on a credit card because Harper needs to impress the Sinclairs." Dad just stared at his shoes. Liam steps back. He leans against the kitchen counter, crossing his arms. Then we stop treating them like family. We treat them like compromised variables. What is your next move? I walk over to the small desk in the corner of our living room. I open my laptop. The screen wakes up, casting a pale glow across the desk surface. My fingers hover over the keyboard. I need to sever the financial ties. I need to close the joint account, transfer my direct deposits, and lock my Social Security number with the credit bureaus to ensure she cannot access any other hidden avenues. I prepare to initiate a total financial quarantine. Before I can type the web address for the credit bureau, my phone vibrates against the desk wood. The screen illuminates with a text message from Maya. Maya's my maid of honor. We shared a dorm room in college. She works as a freelance graphic designer, scraping by on tight margins, but she has a heart of pure gold. The text preview shows 3 lines of text. I tap the notification to read the full message. "Sadie, I am so sorry. Please do not be mad at me. Your mom called me an hour ago. She said you blew through your wedding budget on custom upgrades and are begging for cash. She demanded I wire her $600 for Harper's shower gift by tomorrow, or I am kicked out of the bridal party. She is calling the other girls right now. What is going on? I read the message twice. The glowing words burn into my retinas. The theft was not an isolated incident. Brenda is building a perimeter. She is dismantling my support system, spreading a fabricated narrative to ensure I have no one to rely on but her. She is attacking my social circle to cover her tracks. The text notification on my screen shifts into a digital audio waveform. Maya has sent a voice note. I tap the play icon. The audio crackles to life. The sharp wail of a passing ambulance and the heavy rumble of Chicago city traffic bleed through the speaker. Maya is walking down a busy street, her breath catching in her throat. Sadie, I am so sorry. Please tell me you are not mad at me. Her voice trembles, thin and fragile. Your mom called me an hour ago. She said you blew through your wedding budget on custom upgrades and that you are too embarrassed to ask for cash. She told me the bridal party needs to step up. She demanded I wire her $600 for Harper's shower gift by tomorrow, or I am kicked out of the bridal party. She said if I am a real friend, I will pay up to keep you in the Cooper family's good graces. She is calling the other girls right now. Sadie. I cannot make rent if I send her $600. What is going on? The audio cuts out. The silence in my apartment returns, heavy and suffocating. I stare at the blank screen. Maya is a freelance graphic designer. She lives in a cramped studio apartment, pays her own bills, and survives on tight profit margins. $600 is her grocery budget for 5 weeks. Brenda knows this. My mother intentionally targeted the most financially vulnerable person in my bridal party. This is not a simple cash grab. This is a containment strategy. By framing me as an entitled, reckless bride who forces her mother to beg for donations, Brenda accomplishes 2 goals simultaneously. She extracts more funding for Harper's lavish lifestyle, and she alienates me from my support network. Abusers understand that isolated targets are easier to control. If Maya drops out because she cannot afford the extortion and the other bridesmaids follow suit, I will be left standing alone. Brenda wants me isolated, dependent, and desperate. Liam stands next to me. He listened to the entire recording. His jaw clenches. The muscles in his forearms tighten as he places his hands flat on the kitchen island. I am calling her, Liam says. His tone is dangerously low. I am telling her if she contacts your friends again, I will involve the police. I reach out and place my hand over his wrist. I shake my head. No, I say. Liam frowns. Sadie, she is threatening Maya. She is destroying your friendships to cover up her theft. We cannot just sit here and let her lie to them. We will tell Maya the truth privately, I explain, my mind shifting into the analytical space where I evaluate risk. But we cannot let Brenda know we are on to her yet. Why not? Because right now, Brenda thinks she is holding all the cards. If we confront her with logic, or if we threaten her with authorities, she will panic. She will lock down her assets, cover her digital tracks, and hide the evidence we need to prove she stole the vendor funds. We need a diversion. We need to look exactly where she wants us to look, so we can quietly investigate where she is vulnerable. I step away from the kitchen island. I need to pull my comprehensive Experian credit report and initiate a hard freeze on my Social Security number. But if I do that, the credit bureaus might send an automated alert to any joint email addresses on file. If Brenda receives a fraud notification, the game is over. I need Brenda looking the other way. I need to feed her ego. I pick up my phone. I take a deep breath, close my eyes, and force my heart rate to accelerate. I push air into my lungs in short, jagged bursts. I let my shoulders drop, adopting the physical posture of panic. When I open my eyes, I focus on the feeling of helplessness I had as a teenager living under her roof. I dial her number. Brenda answers almost immediately. Hello? I let out a loud, manufactured sob. Mom! Why are you calling Maya? My voice cracks. It sounds high-pitched, erratic, and desperate. It is the exact tone Brenda expects from a defeated daughter. Brenda lets out a long, patronizing sigh. The ambient noise behind her sounds like the interior of an upscale boutique. Soft instrumental music plays in the background. Oh, for heaven's sake, Sadie. I told you I had to manage the logistics. Harper's shower requires a specific standard. Your friends should be honored to contribute to the family. You cannot ask Maya for $600. I force another fake sob, raising my volume, leaning into the hysteria. She is my maid of honor. You are embarrassing me. Please, Mom, just leave my friends alone. Please do not do this to my bridal party. I deliberately ignore the $14,000 she stole this morning. I focus entirely on the bridesmaids. I present myself as a petty, emotional bride obsessing over social drama rather than a forensic data analyst tracking a financial crime. Brenda takes the bait. Stop being so dramatic, she chides. Her voice drips with smug satisfaction. She is reveling in her perceived dominance. If your friends are too cheap to support your sister, maybe you need better friends. Harper's bridal party is chipping in $1,000 each without a single complaint. Do not call me crying over trivial matters, Sadie. I have a fitting to attend. The line clicks dead. I pull the phone away from my ear. The frantic, breathless expression on my face vanishes instantly. My posture straightens, my breathing slows down to a calm, steady rhythm. Liam stares at me from across the kitchen. He looks genuinely unsettled by how fast I transitioned from a hysterical, weeping bride back to a cold, calculating professional. She bought it, I say. I set the phone face down on the counter. She thinks I am throwing a temper tantrum over Maya. She thinks she won. She is not going to check her banking portals or monitor her email for security alerts. She is too busy feeling superior. Have you ever faked a reaction to keep a toxic person blind to your real plan? Have you ever played the fool just to watch the enemy lower their guard? Let me know in the comments. I walk over to my desk and open my laptop. The aluminum chassis feels cool under my palms. Now that Brenda is distracted by her own vanity, I have a narrow window to secure my identity. As a data analyst, I know that unauthorized bank transfers are rarely isolated events. Fraud is a habit. I navigate to the Experian portal. I enter my credentials, answer the multi-factor authentication prompt, and wait for the dashboard to load. I plan to review my open accounts, place a security freeze on my credit file, and ensure Brenda has not opened any unauthorized utility bills or store cards. The screen refreshes. The circular loading icon spins. I expect to see my standard financial footprint, a clean record containing my modest auto loan, my undergraduate student debt, and my single personal credit card. I expect to see my solid credit score, a number I have meticulously guarded since I entered the workforce. The data populates on the screen. I stare at the summary banner at the top of the web page. The numbers do not make sense. I blink, assuming the browser cached an error. I hit the refresh key. The page reloads. The numbers remain unchanged. My total outstanding debt balance is exponentially higher than it was 30 days ago. My credit utilization ratio sits in the red zone, warning of severe financial distress. I scroll down to the detailed account view. My eyes trace the rows of data, scanning for the anomaly. I find it listed under the revolving credit section. A new trade line opened exactly 6 months ago, registered to my Social Security number. The institution listed is Chase Bank. The account type is a high-yield signature line of credit. The outstanding balance is $22,000. The digits sit on the monitor, stark and undeniable. $22,000. My eyes trace the characters, searching for a decimal point mistake. There is no error. The balance represents a staggering mountain of debt. I click the small arrow next to the account name to expand the trade line details. The browser window stretches downward, revealing the original application data submitted to Chase Bank. The opening date is stamped exactly 6 months ago, October 12th. That was the same week Harper announced her engagement to the Sinclair family heir. The timeline aligns with terrifying precision. My data analyst training kicks in, overriding the rising panic in my chest. I scan the contact information used to secure the credit line. The billing address routes to my parents' suburban home in Carmel. The phone number is a burner line, but the email address makes my blood run cold. The application lists an email account I have never seen before. SadieBride_Indiana at an encrypted mail server. It is sloppy. It is arrogant. It is a digital fingerprint pointing directly at Brenda. She created a fictitious persona using my upcoming wedding as a shield, funneling the bank correspondence into a hidden inbox so I would never receive the monthly statements or the initial approval disclosures. I scroll further down the digital document. A secondary section catches my attention. The header reads, Authorized Users, Harper Cooper. Brenda did not just steal my identity to fund her own vanity. She issued a physical card to my younger sister. The application notes classify Harper under a family emergency fund provision, granting her unrestricted purchasing power on my credit profile. By signing her name on those luxury purchases, Harper crossed a critical legal threshold. Whether she knows the account is fraudulent or simply believes our mother is rich, Harper is now a documented accessory to a federal crime. Liam steps closer to the desk. He reads the screen over my shoulder. His breathing grows shallow. She opened a shadow account, Liam says, his voice thick with disbelief. She took out a loan in your name. I nod slowly. My mind begins to drift, pulled backward by a memory I have not accessed in over a decade. The mechanics of the fraud bother me. Opening a line of credit of this magnitude requires robust identity verification. It requires a flawless signature. Bank algorithms reject mismatched physical documents and electronic consent forms that do not align with historical records. How did Brenda replicate my signature so perfectly that a major financial institution approved a $22,000 limit? The answer surfaces from the depths of my childhood. The memory transports me back to my 12th summer. The Carmel kitchen smells like lemon polish and roasted almonds. The afternoon sun filters through the sheer curtains, casting long rectangular shapes across the hardwood floor. I am sitting at the grand marble island. My legs swing beneath the tall stool. Brenda stands directly behind me. She places a stack of voided checks on the counter. Beside the checks sits a heavy blue ink gel pen. "Pick it up, Sadie," my mother instructs. Her tone is rigid and commanding. I grasp the pen. "Your handwriting is atrocious," Brenda says, tapping a manicured fingernail against the paper. "A young lady must have an elegant, consistent signature. It reflects your character. We are going to practice until you achieve perfection. Write your full legal name on the signature line." I press the pen to the paper. I write my name. Brenda pulls the check away. She studies the curves of the letters. She picks up her own pen and traces over my ink, mapping the exact pressure points, noting where my hand naturally loops the letter S and how I cross the letter T. She stares at the paper with intense clinical focus. "Do it again," she demands. I spend 2 hours at that kitchen island. I fill dozens of voided checks with my signature. Each time, Brenda scrutinizes the result. She keeps the papers. She files them away in a locked cabinet in her home office, claiming she needs to track my progress. The memory fades. The sterile glow of the laptop screen pulls me back to the present. The realization hits me like a physical blow. Brenda was not teaching me good penmanship. She was not molding my character. She was studying me. She gathered a vast repository of my signature, mapping every loop and angle, creating a perfect reference library for future forgery. The premeditation stretches back over a decade. She groomed me to be her financial failsafe long before Harper ever met the Sinclair family. A cold chill washes over my skin. I am standing on the edge of a financial cliff, pushed there by the woman who gave me life. I am liable for $22,000 of Harper's designer shoes, imported champagne, and country club luncheons. I reach for my cell phone. "What are you doing?" Liam asks. "I am not calling Brenda," I reply. I pull up the customer service directory for Chase Bank on my secondary monitor. I scroll past the general support numbers and locate the direct extension for the Fraud Investigations Unit. If I confront my mother now, she will spin a narrative. She will claim it was a mistake, a misunderstanding, or a temporary bridge loan. She will use her tears to manipulate Thomas into protecting her. She will destroy the physical evidence and shred the credit cards. I cannot let her dictate the terms of this war. I dial the number. The phone rings 3 times before a representative answers. "Thank you for contacting the Fraud Mitigation Department. My name is Agent Miller. How can I assist you today?" "Agent Miller," I say. My voice is steady, stripped of all emotion. "My name is Sadie Cooper. I need to report a severe case of identity theft and unauthorized credit utilization. A high-yield line of credit was opened using my Social Security number without my consent." I provide the account details. I feed the agent the fake email address. I listen as the sound of typing echoes across the phone line. I see the account, "Ms. Cooper," the agent says. His tone shifts, becoming sharp and professional. The outstanding balance is substantial. "I am initiating an immediate security hold. We will need to dispatch a formal affidavit of forgery to your primary residence." "Send the documents to my current address," I instruct. I provide my apartment details, ensuring nothing routes back to the Carmel house. "I need to ask you a strategic question, Agent Miller. If we lock this account today, the authorized users will experience an immediate card decline at their next point of sale. Is that correct?" "Yes," the agent confirms. "Any associated plastic will be flagged as stolen. The merchant terminal will deny the transaction." I look at the calendar taped to my desk. My wedding is in 21 days. I need more time to build an unassailable case. If Harper gets declined tomorrow morning buying expensive lattes, Brenda will know the trap is sprung. She will flee the blast radius before I can gather the surveillance footage and IP logs required to ensure a felony indictment. I make a calculated decision. "Agent Miller," I say, staring at the flashing cursor on my laptop, "keep the security hold pending on your end. Send me the affidavits. I will sign them and provide the police reports. But do not initiate the hard merchant decline yet. I am working with local authorities to gather point-of-sale surveillance. If you decline the cards today, the suspect will go to ground. I need the account active just long enough to capture their physical movements." The agent pauses. "This is highly unusual, Ms. Cooper. You remain liable for any additional pending charges until the freeze is executed." "I understand the risk," I reply. "I am building a net. Let them keep spending for a few more days. I will call you to trigger the hard freeze on my exact signal." The agent agrees to the protocol. I hang up the phone. The silence in the apartment feels different now. It is no longer the silence of a victim. It is the silence of a predator waiting in the tall grass. Brenda thinks she is untouchable. She thinks her country club veneer protects her from the consequences of her actions. She believes I am too weak to notice her crimes. I turn to Liam. "We are going to let them keep shopping. We are going to let them rack up the charges and build their own prison." I pull a blank notepad across the desk. I write down the IP tracker requirements, the surveillance request forms, and the police department contact numbers. I am a data analyst. My mother chose the wrong target to defraud. I will not fight her with screaming matches or tearful pleas. I will fight her with irrefutable, documented reality. Just as I finish outlining my strategy, a sharp knock echoes through the apartment. Someone is rapping on our front door. I glance at the clock. It is nearly 9 at night. We are not expecting any visitors. Liam walks toward the entryway. He peers through the peephole. His shoulders stiffen. He turns back to face me, his eyes wide with sudden alarm. "It is your mother," Liam whispers. Brenda is standing on my welcome mat. I have the fraud department documents glowing brightly on my laptop screen. The evidence of her crimes is visible in plain text, illuminating the dark corner of my living room. I have mere seconds to hide the trap before she walks inside. The knock sounds again. 3 sharp, impatient raps against the solid wood door. "Sadie, darling, open up. It's your mother." Brenda's voice muffles through the door frame, carrying her signature blend of forced sweetness and underlying command. My pulse hammers against my ribs. The glowing laptop screen illuminates the dark corner of the living room. The Chase Bank fraud portal is open. My cursor blinks steadily next to the $22,000 outstanding balance. I have the digital affidavits loaded in a secondary tab, ready for my electronic signature. If Brenda walks in and sees the screen, my entire strategy crumbles. She will realize I know about the identity theft. She will immediately transfer the assets, hire a high-priced Carmel defense attorney, and paint me as a paranoid, ungrateful child. I need a diversion. I need camouflage. I reach out and snap the laptop shut. The sudden darkness in the room feels stark. I look at Liam. His expression is rigid, caught between anger and apprehension. "Do not let her see you are upset," I whisper, moving quickly toward the desk lamp. I flick the switch. A warm yellow circle of light spills across the papers. I open the laptop back up. The machine wakes instantly. My fingers fly across the trackpad. I minimize the banking browser window. I open a new instance of Chrome. I rapidly type a URL into the search bar. Pinterest.com. I click on a saved board labeled Rustic Barn Wedding Inspiration. A grid of sunflowers, burlap table runners, and mason jar centerpieces populates the screen. It is the exact aesthetic Brenda despises, the perfect shield to reinforce her belief that I am still playing the role of the docile, low-budget bride. "Let her in," I tell Liam. My voice is steady, stripping away the panic. Liam unlocks the deadbolt and pulls the door open. Brenda sweeps into the apartment like a minor weather event. She wears a tailored cashmere sweater and carries a sleek, oversized designer tote bag. She bypasses Liam entirely, offering him a tight, perfunctory smile before turning her attention directly to me. "I decided to drop by," Brenda announces, waving a manicured hand in the air. "We have so much planning to finalize, and you were acting so erratic on the phone earlier. I thought you might need some maternal guidance." She strides across the living room floor. Her heels click sharply against the laminate wood. The heavy, cloying scent of her signature floral perfume precedes her. It smells like crushed lilies and expensive department store counters. The scent fills the small space, pushing out the smell of Liam's roasted garlic. My heart executes a violent drumbeat in my chest as she approaches the desk. "What are you working on?" she asks, leaning over my shoulder. The proximity is suffocating. I can feel the heat radiating from her cashmere sweater. I can see the reflection of the laptop screen in the shiny gold buckle of her designer tote bag. "Just looking at floral arrangements," I say. I keep my eyes glued to the monitor, forcing my vocal cords to remain relaxed. I am trying to figure out how to arrange the centerpieces for the reception tables. The budget is a bit tighter now, so I have to be creative. I deliberately mention the budget. It is a subtle nod to the $14,000 she stole this morning. I offer her the illusion of dominance. Brenda scoffs. She inspects the images of the mason jars and burlap runners on the Pinterest board. Her nose wrinkles in barely concealed distaste. "It is very charming, Sadie. Very quaint." She emphasizes the word quaint, weaponizing it as an insult. I suppose it fits the venue. Harper is going with imported white orchids cascading from crystal vases. but your little rustic theme will be fine for your crowd. I scroll down the page, clicking on an image of a wooden crate filled with baby's breath. It is fine, Mom. I am making it work. Brenda straightens up. She pats my shoulder. Her touch feels like a cold weight pressing against my collarbone. I am glad you are being reasonable about the funding adjustment. You always were the practical one. Harper simply requires a different level of presentation. You understand, do you not? I understand completely, I reply. I turn my head and look up at her. I offer a small, defeated smile. The smile is a calculated lie. It is the exact expression she expects to see from a daughter who has accepted her lesser status. Brenda beams. Her ego absorbs the submissive posture like dry earth drinking rain. She believes she has successfully managed the crisis. She believes the theft is forgiven, the extortion of my bridesmaids is forgotten, and the $22,000 shadow account remains undiscovered. She is standing inches away from a forensic data analyst who is actively building a federal wire fraud case against her, and she has absolutely no idea. I brought some linen swatches for the head table, Brenda says, rummaging through her oversized tote bag. I know Liam wants to wear tweed, but we can at least try to elevate the table settings. For the next 20 minutes, I play the role of the compliant bride. I nod at her linen swatches. I agree with her condescending critiques of my catering menu. I listen as she casually mentions how busy she will be next week shopping for Harper's honeymoon wardrobe. Using the Chase credit line I now know she opened in my name. Every word out of her mouth is another brick in the prison she is building for herself. Liam stands near the kitchen counter watching the performance. He remains silent, serving as a stoic witness to her arrogance. Finally, Brenda checks her diamond wristwatch. I must run, darling. I have an early tennis match tomorrow. Do not stress about the flowers. Just throw some daisies in those jars and call it a day. She gathers her swatches, kisses the air near my cheek, and sweeps out the door. Liam locks the deadbolt the second it clicks shut. The heavy floral perfume lingers in the air. I exhale a long, shuddering breath. The adrenaline spike leaves a sour metallic taste in the back of my throat. That was too close, Liam says, walking over to the desk. He runs a hand through his hair. She almost saw the banking portal. I reach out and close the Pinterest tab. The Chase Bank fraud dashboard reappears, glowing brightly in the dim room. She did not see anything, I state, and because she thinks she won, she is not going to check her perimeter. We have the green light. I focus on the technical execution of my silent strategy. A successful fraud investigation requires more than just a locked account. It requires establishing a definitive timeline and irrefutable digital geography. I need to prove that Brenda was the architect of the theft, not a victim of a random hacker. I access the security settings panel within the Chase portal. I navigate to the active session history log. Financial institutions track the IP address of every device that logs into their servers to prevent unauthorized access. The data populates in a neat, sequential grid. I analyze the digital footprint. The log displays dozens of login events over the past 6 months. I cross-reference the IP addresses with the geolocation tool. A distinct pattern emerges. 80% of the logins originate from a specific broadband node assigned to the Carmel, Indiana area. I run a secondary trace on the subnet. The geographic coordinates pinpoint the router located inside my parents' 5-bedroom house. The remaining 20% of the logins map to public cellular networks near high-end shopping districts, upscale bridal boutiques, and luxury spas. The data paints a flawless picture of Brenda and Harper's daily routine. The digital evidence is incontrovertible. I download the session logs. I export the data into an encrypted CSV file. I pair the IP history with the fake email address application and the authorized user documentation listing Harper's name. I compile the documents into a digital dossier. I open the affidavit form sent by Agent Miller. I read the legal disclaimers. By signing these documents, I am formally swearing, under penalty of perjury, that I did not authorize the credit line, that I did not benefit from the purchases, and that I am the victim of identity theft. I attach my electronic signature to the bottom of the page. I draft an email to the Bank Fraud Mitigation Unit. I attach the signed affidavits and the compiled IP history dossier. I type out a clear, concise directive in the body of the message. Agent Miller. Please find the executed affidavits attached. I have also included the session login data linking the unauthorized access directly to the suspect's residential network. As previously discussed, do not initiate a hard decline on the active physical cards at this time. I am coordinating with law enforcement to secure additional physical surveillance. I will contact your department to execute the total account freeze on my signal. I hit send. The email vanishes into the outbox. The trap is officially armed. The mechanism is hidden, silent, and waiting. Brenda will continue to swipe the stolen plastic. She will continue to fund Harper's extravagant life, entirely unaware that every transaction is adding another layer of concrete to her impending felony indictment. I lean back in my chair. The digital clock on my laptop reads 11 at night. The wedding is approaching fast. The sudden vibration of my phone shatters the quiet focus in the room. The caller ID flashes on the screen. The name listed is Carol. Carol is the primary event coordinator at the rustic barn venue where Liam and I are hosting our reception. She is a meticulous, highly stressed professional who rarely calls outside of standard business hours unless there is a critical logistical failure. I answer the call. Hello, Carol. Is everything all right? Hi, Sadie. Carol sounds frantic. The background noise on her end indicates she is still at the office, shuffling through paperwork. I am so sorry to call this late. I was just reviewing the final event sequence for your reception next weekend, and I found a massive discrepancy in the file. What kind of discrepancy, I ask? Carol hesitates. I received an updated schedule and guest list revision this afternoon. The modifications drastically alter the timeline for the final 2 hours of the evening. The submission notes state that the back half of your wedding reception is being converted into an engagement celebration gala for Harper Cooper. My grip tightens on the phone. And Sadie, Carol continues, her voice dropping into a tense whisper, the revision includes an additional 50 guests arriving at 9 o'clock. The words hang in the quiet space of my apartment. An engagement celebration gala. 50 additional guests arriving at 9. I press the phone harder against my ear. The sheer audacity of the scheme forces my analytical mind to pause for a fraction of a second. Brenda is not satisfied with stealing $14,000 from my vendor fund. She is not satisfied with opening a $22,000 shadow credit line to finance Harper's luxury wardrobe. She intends to physically hijack the venue I rented, effectively turning my wedding reception into a taxpayer-funded opening act for Harper's social debut into the Sinclair family circle. Carol, I say, maintaining a steady, authoritative tone, forward that updated schedule to my email immediately. I will send it right now, Carol replies. The sound of rapid typing filters through the speaker. Sadie, I swear I did not approve these changes. The submission came through our online portal under the primary contact profile. My laptop chimes. A new email appears in my inbox from the venue management system. I open the attached PDF document. The file contains a scanned copy of the original event timeline. The sight of it sends a cold, hard spike of clarity straight through my chest. My name, Sadie Cooper, printed at the top of the header in bold black font, is aggressively crossed out. A thick, jagged line of red digital ink strikes through my identity. Written above it, in a font mimicking elegant calligraphy, are the words, Brenda Cooper, Mother of the Brides. I scroll down the page. The scheduled events for 8 in the evening, the cake cutting, the bouquet toss, the private final dance with Liam, are entirely deleted. In their place, Brenda has inserted a new itinerary. 9 o'clock, arrival of the Sinclair family guests. 9:15, champagne toast honoring Harper Cooper and William Sinclair. 9:30, mother's speech. Brenda intends to march 50 high society elites into my rented barn, uninvited, and demand the microphone to announce Harper's engagement on my dime. She views my wedding day as a convenient, prepaid stage for her own vanity project. Sadie, are you still there? Carol asks. Her voice trembles slightly. We can reject the revision. I can lock the portal right now. I know how stressful this must be. I stare at the red line drawn through my name. The red ink feels like a physical manifestation of my entire childhood. I was always the rough draft, the placeholder, the variable easily erased to make room for Harper's grand narrative. Brenda expects me to fight her on this. She expects me to call her screaming about the guest list, initiating another messy, emotional argument where she can play the victim and accuse me of being an unsupportive, jealous sister. I will not give her the satisfaction of a predictable reaction. I am a data analyst. I do not react to anomalies. I exploit them. No, Carol, do not reject the revision. Carol gasps softly. What? But Sadie, the catering count, the bar tab, the capacity limits. We will cover the bar tab. Let the catering count stand as is. If 50 people show up at 9, they can drink whatever is left and watch the show. Do not alert Brenda that we spoke. Let her believe the schedule changes are fully approved and locked in. I want those 50 guests in the room. I need an audience. If Brenda wants to use my wedding as a stage to impress the Carmel elite, I will gladly provide the spotlight. I will let her parade around the room. I will let her grab the microphone. And then, in front of the exact people she hijacked my wedding to impress, I will drop the anvil. I will weaponize the very audience she manufactured. But Carol, I continue, my voice dropping into a register that brooks no argument, we are implementing a strict communication blackout protocol starting immediately. No vendor makes a single alteration to the timeline, the floral arrangements, the music cue, or the seating chart without verbal authorization from me. Not Liam, not Brenda, not Harper, me. Understood, Carol says, the relief evident in her quick response. I will flag the master file. We need a security passcode for the account. What word should I put in the system? I look around my small, quiet apartment. I look at Liam, who is watching me with unwavering support. I think about the legacy custodial account, the fraudulent Chase credit card, the practice checks at the Marble Island, and the 28 years I spent shrinking myself to fit into a space Brenda designated for me. Independence. Make the passcode Independence, I instruct. Capital I. Got it. Independence is locked in. Carol sounds energized now, armed with a clear directive. I will notify the DJ and the catering manager to flag all incoming requests. Thank you, Carol. See you next weekend. I end the call. I place the phone on the desk. The red line on the PDF document glares at me. Liam walks over and studies the screen. He reads the revised itinerary. He does not yell or curse. He simply shakes his head in quiet disbelief. She is bringing 50 strangers to our wedding to celebrate Harper. She thinks she is, I correct him. She is actually delivering 50 witnesses to her own financial execution. The screen of my phone lights up again. A text message arrives. The sender is Harper. My younger sister rarely initiates contact unless she requires a favor, a ride, or a compliment on a new purchase. I tap the notification to read the message. Hey sis, so excited for our big night next week. Mom says the venue is going to look amazing. Can you make sure the photographer gets some good engagement portraits of William and me by the grand staircase before the lighting gets too dark? Thanks. I read the text twice. Harper is entirely oblivious. She exists in a curated bubble, insulated from consequence, floating on a river of stolen money. She truly believes my wedding reception is a co-branded event designed to celebrate her engagement. She is wearing designer shoes purchased with my Social Security number, planning a photo shoot on my rented staircase. I do not reply. Silence is a far more effective tool than rage. I pull up my email client. I need to solidify the evidence required to ensure the trap holds when the jaws finally snap shut. I have the IP logs and the forged affidavit submitted to the bank, but digital footprints can be debated by expensive defense attorneys in a courtroom. A skilled lawyer could argue that a hacker compromised the home network or that malware hijacked the router. I need physical, undeniable proof linking Brenda directly to the fraudulent transactions. I need video surveillance. I open a new browser window and access the recent transaction history on the fraudulent Chase account dashboard. I filter the data by merchant category, isolating high-value retail purchases conducted in person rather than online. The list populates. A specific transaction catches my eye. 2 days ago, a charge for $4,112 was processed at a luxury bridal boutique located in the upscale fashion district of downtown Indianapolis. The amount aligns perfectly with the cost of a high-end designer dress, the exact type of garment Brenda would insist Harper wear for an engagement celebration gala. I pull up the police department contact list I drafted earlier. I dial the direct extension for the Financial Crimes Division. I asked to speak with Detective Ramirez, the officer assigned to my identity theft case when I filed the initial report. Detective Ramirez, Sadie Cooper speaking. Ms. Cooper? Ramirez sounds focused. I was just reviewing the IP logs you forwarded from the bank portal. The geographic coordination is solid. I have a point of sale location, I say, cutting straight to the objective. The suspect executed a $4,000 retail transaction 48 hours ago at the Bella Voce Bridal Boutique downtown. If you subpoena the store security footage for that specific timestamp, you will get a clear facial recognition match of the individual signing the fraudulent credit receipt. Excellent, Ramirez replies. I will issue the subpoena request to the merchant first thing in the morning. Retailers in that district utilize high-definition ceiling cameras directly over the checkout registers to prevent chargeback disputes. If the suspect was standing at the counter, we will have her on tape. I need that footage before next Saturday, I state. Ramirez pauses. The wedding date. I remember you mentioning you wanted to delay the hard freeze. You are cutting this extremely close, Ms. Cooper. I am building a comprehensive net, Detective. Just secure the video file. I end the call. The pieces are moving into position. The digital logs, the forged signatures, the hijacked venue contract, the incoming surveillance video. Brenda is orchestrating a grand social performance, unaware that the stage she is building is actually a scaffold. I close the laptop. The room plunges into darkness. The only sound is the quiet hum of the refrigerator. The tension in the apartment is heavy, thick with the anticipation of the coming storm. The rehearsal dinner is only a few days away. It will be the final test of my restraint. The last opportunity for Brenda to flaunt her perceived victory before the floor drops out from beneath her. The encrypted email arrives on Tuesday morning. I'm sitting at my desk, sipping black coffee, analyzing a data set for a logistics client. The notification chimes through the computer speakers. The sender is listed as Detective Ramirez, Indiana State Police, Financial Crimes Division. The subject line reads, Case Evidence Attachment, Surveillance Request Fulfillment. I set my ceramic coffee mug down. The sudden spike of adrenaline makes my fingers feel cold. I move the cursor over the attachment icon and click Download. A compressed video file and a series of high-resolution still images drop into my secure local folder. I open the first image file. The photograph is a grainy, grayscale capture pulled directly from the security camera positioned above the checkout counter at the Bella Voce Bridal Boutique. The timestamp in the lower right corner perfectly matches the transaction record on the fraudulent Chase credit portal. There she is. Brenda stands at the register, wearing her signature oversized sunglasses pushed back atop her immaculate blonde hair. She leans casually against the glass display case. Her lips are parted in a wide, smug smile, laughing at something the sales associate just said. Beside her stands Harper, holding a garment bag encased in thick, opaque, protective plastic. Harper is looking at her phone, completely disinterested in the transaction logistics, insulated by her mother's financial maneuvering. In Brenda's right hand is the physical Chase credit card. The second image zooms in tight on the card terminal. Brenda holds a stylus pen. She is mid-stroke, signing my name, Sadie Cooper, onto the digital screen. The forgery is seamless, practiced, and executed with the casual confidence of a woman who believes she will never face a single consequence for her actions. I stare at the black and white printout on my screen. The smug smile on Brenda's face is the exact same smile she wore when she told me I probably would not even notice the stolen wedding cake deposit. It is the same smile she flashed when she patted my shoulder and told me to put my wedding on a credit card. It is the smile of a predator who has successfully consumed her prey. I hit the print command. The laser printer in the corner of my office hums to life, spitting out a crisp, physical copy of the surveillance photograph. I pick up the warm paper. I slide it into a thick, plastic-bound black folder sitting on the corner of my desk. I have spent the last 2 weeks filling this folder. It contains the legacy account transfer logs showing the stolen $14,000. It holds the IP tracking data linking the forged credit application to the Carmel router. It includes the signed bank fraud affidavits and the hijacked venue contract with my name crossed out in red ink. I dub the black binder the burn book. It represents a physical manifestation of my impending freedom. It is the weapon I will drop onto the table when the performance finally ends. My phone buzzes. The caller ID displays the name of the legal counsel I retained 2 days after discovering the debt. Robert Vance is a pragmatic, sharp-edged attorney specializing in identity theft and civil litigation. I hired him to ensure my defensive perimeter was legally airtight. Sadie. Robert's voice is gruff, lacking any unnecessary pleasantries. I reviewed the surveillance stills Ramirez forwarded to my office. We have her dead to rights. The physical possession of the forged instrument, captured on merchant video, bridges the gap between digital suspicion and actionable criminal evidence. What are the precise charges, I ask? I need to understand the exact parameters of the blast zone. Robert clears his throat. Based on the documentation you compiled, the prosecutor will seek indictments for felony identity deception, wire fraud, and grand theft. The dollar amount elevates the severity. The unauthorized credit line sits at $22,000. The embezzled vendor funds total $14,500. You are looking at a combined financial injury exceeding $36,000. That crosses the statutory threshold for severe felony classification in Indiana. What about Harper, I inquire. Robert pauses. The younger sister is a complication. Because she is listed as an authorized user and was physically present during the fraudulent transactions, a zealous prosecutor could charge her as an accessory before the fact or pursue conspiracy charges. It depends heavily on whether she can prove she reasonably believed the funds were legitimate. Regardless, her name is permanently attached to a federal fraud investigation. Her social standing will evaporate the moment the indictment drops. The weight of the situation settles heavily onto my shoulders. This is no longer a domestic dispute over a canceled wedding cake or a stolen vendor deposit. This is the destruction of 2 lives. If I proceed, Brenda faces potential incarceration and total financial ruin. Thomas will lose his suburban sanctuary to pay for defense attorneys. Harper's engagement to the wealthy Sinclair heir will disintegrate upon public exposure of the embezzlement. I face the ultimate crossroads. I can call Chase Bank right now, claim the debt as my own, absorb the $36,000 loss, and protect my abusive mother from a prison sentence. I can spend the first decade of my marriage to Liam paying off Harper's designer wardrobe to keep the Cooper family image intact. Or I can execute the trap. I look at a framed photograph sitting on my desk. It is a picture of Liam and me, taken during a hiking trip last autumn. Liam is smiling, his eyes crinkling at the corners. He works 60-hour weeks to build our life together. He deserves a partner who prioritizes our shared future over a toxic past. If I absorb this debt to save Brenda, I am stealing from Liam. I am allowing my mother to infect my new family with the same poison she used to control my childhood. When family loyalty crosses into federal crimes, where do you draw the line? Do you set yourself on fire to keep your abusers warm, or do you hand the police the matches? Let me know in the comments below. Execute the trap, Robert, I state. My voice is steady, devoid of hesitation. I will contact the bank to initiate the hard decline on the physical cards exactly 2 hours before my reception begins on Saturday. Prepare the civil suit to recover the stolen vendor funds. We strike when the audience is gathered. Understood, Robert replies. He sounds impressed by my resolve. Stay frosty, Sadie. The next few days will test your restraint. Do not give them a single reason to suspect you are building a gallows. I terminate the call. I close the thick black folder. The paper trail is solidified. The legal framework is secured, the evidence is printed, cataloged, and ready for deployment. The tension in my apartment ramps up exponentially as the wedding week officially arrives. The air feels dense, charged with static electricity. Every mundane interaction takes on a surreal, almost cinematic quality. I am walking through a simulated reality, playing a role while waiting for the curtain to fall. Wednesday afternoon, I meet Brenda and Harper at a local bridal salon for a final fitting. Brenda pays for Harper's imported veil using the fraudulent Chase card right in front of my face. I watch the merchant terminal process the transaction. I watch the approval code flash on the screen. I smile and tell Harper the veil looks stunning. The cognitive dissonance requires massive emotional compartmentalization. Thursday morning, Thomas calls to ask if I need help transporting the centerpieces to the rustic barn venue. He sounds genuinely helpful, playing the role of the supportive father. I thank him politely and decline. I look at my phone screen after hanging up, wondering how a man can be so thoroughly hollowed out by his wife that he ignores the theft of his own daughter's life savings. Friday arrives, the final 24 hours. Liam and I spend the morning packing the car with the remaining wedding decor. The burlap runners, the mason jars, the wooden crates. We load the physical manifestations of the budget aesthetic Brenda despises. Liam secures a heavy box of string lights in the trunk. He shuts the hatch and turns to me. His face is serious, the playful energy of a groom replaced by the quiet focus of a partner preparing for battle. Are you ready for tonight? Liam asks. Tonight is the rehearsal dinner. It is a scaled-down event hosted at a local, family-owned Italian restaurant. It is meant to be an intimate gathering for the bridal party and immediate family to review the ceremony mechanics and share a quiet meal before the chaos of the wedding day. For me, it is the final test. It is the last opportunity for Brenda to assert her dominance in a private setting before the public execution tomorrow night. I am ready, I reply. I reach into the back seat and grab my purse. Inside the purse rests the thick black folder. I am carrying the burn book to the dinner. I need the physical weight of the evidence near me to stay grounded. We drive to the restaurant in silence. The Italian bistro smells like roasted garlic, fresh basil, and old wood. Our bridal party occupies a long rectangular table in a private back room. Maya sits near the head of the table. She looks anxious, her eyes darting toward the entrance every time the door swings open. She is terrified of Brenda. She still believes the extortion threat is active. I offer Maya a reassuring nod, silently promising her that the nightmare is almost over. The clock strikes 7. The dinner officially begins. The seats reserved for Brenda, Thomas, and Harper remain empty. They are 30 minutes late. It is a classic power play, a deliberate tactic designed to force the entire room to wait for their arrival, establishing their supreme importance in the social hierarchy. At 7:35, the heavy oak doors to the private room push open. Brenda sweeps inside, followed closely by Harper and a trailing, silent Thomas. Brenda wears a tailored silk pantsuit that likely costs more than the entire dinner bill. Harper clutches a thick stack of heavy, glossy envelopes against her chest. "Apologies for the delay, everyone," Brenda announces loudly, ensuring every conversation at the table immediately halts. Traffic was simply dreadful, and we had to stop at the stationery boutique to pick up a crucial delivery. Brenda does not apologize to me. She addresses the room as if she is the host of a corporate summit. She takes her seat near the center of the table. Harper sits beside her. Harper immediately places the stack of thick envelopes onto the white tablecloth. "What are those?" Liam asks, his voice tight with barely suppressed anger. Harper beams. She slides the top envelope across the table. "These are the official save-the-date cards for William and my wedding next spring. We figured since everyone was gathered here tonight, it would be the perfect time to distribute them. Saves on postage. Right. My mother and sister brought Harper's wedding invitations to my rehearsal dinner." The heavy cardstock hits the porcelain rim of my dinner plate. The glossy envelope slides forward, striking the base of my water glass. The tall goblet tips over. Ice water spills across the pristine white tablecloth, soaking into the linen and pooling around the base of my silverware. "Oops," Harper says, her voice lacking any genuine apology. She does not reach for a napkin to help clean the spill. Instead, she turns her attention to the groomsman sitting next to her, eagerly handing him another thick envelope. I stare at the gold-foiled stationery resting in the puddle of water. The thick paper absorbs the moisture slowly. The audacity is breathtaking. Brenda and Harper are hijacking my rehearsal dinner, transforming a night meant to honor my marriage to Liam into a promotional campaign for Harper's social ascension. They are passing out save-the-date cards for a wedding that is a year away, distributing them to my bridal party, Liam's family, and our closest friends. A heavy, suffocating silence descends over the private room. My bridesmaids exchange horrified glances. Liam's mother, sitting across the table, looks at Brenda with an expression of sheer disbelief. Even Thomas, staring intently at his untouched bread plate, seems to shrink further into his chair, acutely aware of the social boundary his wife just obliterated. I do not react. I reach out, grab a linen napkin, and calmly dab at the spilled water. I pick up the gold-foiled card resting on my plate. The paper is heavy, textured, and expensive. The elegant calligraphy spells out Harper and William, flanked by an ornate floral crest. I run my thumb over the raised gold lettering. The physical cost of printing 50 custom, foil-stamped invitations on premium cardstock likely exceeds $2,000. I know exactly which credit account financed this stationery. I do not throw the card back at her. I do not tear it into pieces. I slide the heavy envelope off the table and drop it directly into my open purse, resting it right next to the thick black dossier containing the police reports. I need to keep this physical piece of evidence. It will serve a very specific purpose tomorrow night. The dinner service begins. Waiters maneuver around the table, distributing plates of chicken parmesan and roasted vegetables. The ambient noise of clinking silverware and polite, strained conversation attempts to fill the awkward void left by Harper's stunt. Maya sits rigid in her chair. She picks at her food, avoiding eye contact with Brenda. My mother notices Maya's discomfort and leans forward, resting her elbows on the table. "Maya, dear," Brenda says, her voice projecting clearly over the low hum of the room. "I was reviewing the guest list for Harper's bridal shower next weekend. I did not see your RSVP. I assume you are finalizing your contribution to the group gift? We really need everyone aligned to ensure Harper's event is flawless." Maya freezes. Her fork hovers inches above her plate. The extortion threat is delivered publicly, masked as a polite inquiry. Brenda is flexing her power, reminding Maya that her position in the social circle depends on her financial compliance. I feel the distinct, heavy shape of the black folder pressing against my leg through the fabric of my purse. The urge to pull the police report out and slam it onto the table is nearly overwhelming. I want to watch Brenda's smug expression shatter. I want to expose her theft right now, in front of the entire rehearsal party, and end the psychological warfare. But if I confront her tonight, she retains an escape route. She can storm out of the restaurant, claim she is a victim of a hysterical bride, and spend the next 12 hours liquidating accounts and hiring defense attorneys before the bank card freeze initiates. I need her trapped in a room she cannot gracefully exit, surrounded by the high society elites she values more than her own children. I reach under the table and place my hand over Liam's knee. I squeeze twice, a silent signal instructing him to remain calm. I look directly at Maya. "Do not worry about the shower gift, Maya. I have already handled the family finances. Everything is exactly where it needs to be." Maya blinks, confused by my confident tone, but the visible tension in her shoulders eases slightly. Brenda smiles, misinterpreting my statement as total submission. She assumes I have accepted the theft of the $14,000 and am covering Maya's share to keep the peace. She believes I am financing her extortion. She raises her wine glass. The crystal catches the ambient light of the restaurant. "I think this calls for a toast," Brenda announces. She stands up. The room quiets down again. All eyes turn toward the woman in the expensive silk pantsuit. Brenda clears her throat. To Sadie and Liam. "We are all so thrilled to be here tonight. It is wonderful to see you two finally settling down. And Sadie, I must commend you on your practical approach to this entire weekend. You kept things so simple, so restrained." It takes a very specific kind of maturity to recognize your limitations and not overreach. The insult is woven seamlessly into the compliment. She is publicly calling my wedding cheap, framing my stolen budget as a deliberate, humble choice. "By keeping your reception modest," Brenda continues, her gaze sweeping across the room, ensuring everyone is listening, "you have allowed this family to focus our resources on the future. You have given Harper the space to plan the complex, demanding events required for her transition into the Sinclair family. We are so proud of your sacrifice, Sadie. Cheers." Brenda raises her glass higher. Thomas mutters a quiet, dutiful cheer. Harper clinks her glass against a groomsman's water goblet. The rest of the table remains frozen, stunned by the sheer narcissism of the speech. I do not look away. I feel the cold, sharp focus of a data analyst locking onto a target. Brenda just publicly admitted to reallocating family resources. She framed her theft as my willing sacrifice. I push my chair back. The wooden legs scrape loudly against the tile floor. I stand up. I pick up my water glass. "I would also like to propose a toast," I say. My voice is steady, resonant, and entirely stripped of the hysteria Brenda expects. I turn to face my mother. "To Brenda," I state, raising my glass, "thank you for taking such an active role in my financial life. You have always ensured that the Cooper family finances are handled exactly as they should be. Your dedication to tracking every dollar, opening every necessary account, and securing the future is truly breathtaking. Without your specific interventions over the last 6 months, tomorrow night would not be possible. Here is to you, Mom. You are about to get exactly what you deserve. Brenda preens. Her ego is so massive, so thoroughly insulated from reality, that she completely misses the lethal double meaning in my words. She hears praise. She hears submission. She assumes the phrase regarding the last 6 months refers to her wedding planning advice, not the $22,000 Chase credit line she opened in my name exactly 6 months ago. "Thank you, Sadie," Brenda replies, offering a gracious, condescending nod. It is a mother's duty to manage her children's assets. I drink from my glass. The cold water soothes the dry adrenaline in my throat. I sit back down. The tension in the room shifts. My bridesmaids look at me, sensing the dangerous undercurrent in my tone, but unable to decipher the specifics. Liam exhales a long, slow breath. We survive the rehearsal dinner. The trap remains undiscovered. The meal concludes an hour later. As the guests begin to gather their coats and exchange polite farewells, I lean over to Liam. "I need to leave right now," I whisper. Liam nods. He stands up and intercepts his parents, guiding them toward the exit to run interference. I grab my purse. I bypass Brenda and Harper, who are busy cornering the restaurant manager to complain about the quality of the chicken parmesan. I push through the heavy oak doors and step out into the cool, damp Indiana night. The parking lot is quiet. The distant hum of highway traffic filters through the trees. I walk to my car, unlock the door, and slide into the driver's seat. I lock the doors immediately. I pull the thick black folder from my purse. I open it. Verifying the signed affidavits and the surveillance printouts are intact. The gold-foiled save-the-date card rests inside the front pocket, waiting for its cue. I reach for my cell phone. I pull up the contact history and locate the direct extension for Agent Miller at the Chase Bank Fraud Mitigation Unit. I check the digital clock on my dashboard. It is 9:45 on Friday night. I dial the number. The automated system routes my call through the priority queue based on the open case file attached to my profile. Agent Miller speaking. Agent Miller, it is Sadie Cooper. My voice is clinical, precise, and devoid of hesitation. Ms. Cooper, I have your file open. The affidavits you submitted are processed. The IP logs are verified. We are holding the account status in a pending review state per your instructions. Are you ready to proceed? Execute the hard freeze, I command. I want an absolute lockdown on the fraudulent credit line. Flag the physical cards as stolen. Block all terminal authorizations. If the suspect attempts to swipe that plastic at a coffee shop, a gas station, or a venue bar, I want the merchant screen to flash a felony fraud alert. Shut it down. Understood, Agent Miller replies. The sound of rapid keystrokes echoes over the phone line. Executing the security protocol now. The primary account and all authorized user derivatives are locked. The available credit is reduced to 0. The physical cards are dead. I disconnect the call. I sit in the quiet car staring at the glowing dashboard clock. The digital numbers shift to 9:46. The weapon is armed. The financial oxygen supply to Harper's luxury lifestyle is severed. Brenda will wake up tomorrow morning completely broke, carrying useless, deactivated plastic in her designer purse. She will march into my wedding venue expecting to hijack my reception, entirely unaware that the floor beneath her feet has already collapsed. I start the engine. I pull out of the restaurant parking lot and drive toward my apartment. Tomorrow is my wedding day. Tomorrow is the day I reclaim my name, my identity, and my future. The silent strategy is over. The public execution begins. The morning of my wedding dawns with a crisp, clear Indiana sky. The humidity from the previous week has broken, leaving behind a sharp, cool breeze that rustles the oak trees surrounding the venue. I arrive at the rustic barn estate at 8 in the morning. The property is quiet, smelling of fresh-cut grass and old pine wood. The venue coordinator, Carol, meets me at the entrance, her clipboard tucked securely under her arm. She offers a brief, tight nod, confirming that the vendor blackout protocol remains active and the passcode is strictly enforced. I make my way to the bridal suite located on the second floor of the renovated farmhouse adjacent to the barn. The room is beautiful. Exposed brick walls, wide plank oak floors, and massive windows that allow natural light to flood the space. It is designed to be a sanctuary, a quiet retreat where a bride can prepare for her marriage, surrounded by supportive friends. For the first 30 minutes, it is exactly that. Maya and the other bridesmaids arrive holding coffee cups and garment bags. We talk in low, comfortable voices. The makeup artist sets up her station near the window. The atmosphere is peaceful, grounded, and focused on the commitment Liam and I are about to make. Then, the heavy wooden door to the suite swings open. Brenda enters, shattering the tranquility like a stone thrown through a stained glass window. She does not knock. She does not offer a greeting. She marches into the room, followed immediately by Harper. Brenda wears a tailored, slate gray mother of the bride dress that looks remarkably similar to an evening gown. Harper trails behind her, carrying a massive, opaque garment bag. "Make room, ladies," Brenda commands, clapping her hands together twice. Her voice cuts through the soft morning conversations. We have a very tight schedule, and I need this vanity mirror cleared. Harper's glam squad is arriving in 10 minutes. The bridal suite goes entirely silent. Maya freezes mid-sip of her coffee, her eyes darting toward me in a panic. The other bridesmaids step back, instinctively giving Brenda a wide berth. I sit in the stylist chair, draped in a white cotton robe. I do not flinch. I watch Brenda through the reflection in the vanity mirror. Harper unzips the opaque garment bag. The sharp hiss of the metal zipper sounds excessively loud in the quiet room. She pulls out a dress. The fabric rustles, heavy and voluminous. It is an inappropriately lavish, floor-length champagne silk gown featuring intricate beadwork across the bodice. It is not a bridesmaid dress. It is a pageant gown, designed specifically to pull focus and dominate photographs. Harper holds the dress up against her body, assessing her reflection in the full-length mirror. "Do you think the lighting on the grand staircase will wash out the beadwork?" she asks, addressing Brenda while entirely ignoring my presence in the room. Brenda walks over and adjusts the neckline of the silk gown. "Not at all, darling. We will have the venue photographer adjust his exposure settings. I scheduled a 30-minute window for him to take your official engagement portraits on the staircase before the ceremony begins." Maya sets her coffee cup down with a sharp clack. She steps forward, her loyalty overriding her fear of Brenda's extortion threats. "Mrs. Cooper, Sadie paid for the photographer. His contract stipulates he is shooting the bridal party preparation and the first look photos during that window." Brenda turns slowly. She looks at Maya the way a homeowner looks at a termite. "Maya, dear," Brenda says, her tone dripping with venomous condescension, "Sadie's little rustic photos will not take long. She is wearing a very simple dress. Harper requires professional-grade lighting for her engagement announcement. William's family expects top-tier documentation. Please do not interfere with family logistics." Maya opens her mouth to argue, but I raise my hand, a silent signal instructing her to stand down. "Let them have the photographer," I state calmly. My voice is even, devoid of any frustration or anger. 30 minutes on the grand staircase is fine. Brenda pauses. She turns to look at me, her eyes narrowing. She expected a fight. She wanted a screaming match. She wanted me to throw a hysterical fit so she could label me a bridezilla and justify her dominance over the day. My total compliance unsettles her. I remain seated in the stylist chair. I look at my mother and sister not as family members, but as test subjects in a psychological experiment. They are fascinating to observe. They possess an absolute lack of self-awareness, driven entirely by vanity and the desperate need for external validation. They are arranging a photo shoot in expensive clothing purchased with stolen money, inside a venue they plan to hijack later tonight. "Are you feeling all right, Sadie?" Brenda asks, taking a tentative step closer to my chair. "You are acting very strange. You are entirely too quiet." I meet her gaze in the mirror. My expression is a mask of perfect serenity. "I am fine, Mom," I reply softly. "I am just thinking about the speeches tonight." Brenda studies my face for another 3 seconds, searching for a trace of sarcasm or a hidden threat. She finds nothing but calm acceptance. Her ego, ever hungry for submission, accepts the victory. "Good," Brenda says, smoothing the front of her slate gray dress. "I am glad you are finally learning how to share the spotlight. It shows maturity." She turns her attention back to Harper, fussing over the champagne silk gown, completely unaware that the spotlight I am sharing tonight will function like an interrogation lamp. An hour later, the room clears out as the bridesmaids head downstairs to inspect the floral arrangements. Brenda and Harper occupy the far corner of the suite, surrounded by their personal makeup artists, chattering loudly about the Sinclair family guest list. I remain near the window, watching the gravel driveway below. A quiet knock sounds at the suite door. Liam steps inside. He looks incredibly sharp in his dark tweed suit. His presence instantly grounds me. He ignores Brenda and Harper completely, crossing the room to stand beside me at the window. He reaches out and takes my hand. "How are you holding up?" Liam whispers, his voice low enough that Brenda cannot hear him over the hum of the hairdryers. "I am tracking the timeline," I whisper back. "Is the DJ briefed?" Liam nods. "I spoke with him 10 minutes ago. He knows Brenda will likely try to grab the microphone during the toast segment. He is instructed to let her have it, and to hand you the secondary microphone the exact second you stand up. The audio channels are mixed and ready." I squeeze Liam's hand. We are almost there. Liam smiles, a brief, tight expression of solidarity. He leans down, kisses my forehead, and exits the room to join the groomsmen. I walk over to the small table where I left my purse. I reach inside and pull out my cell phone. I navigate to my secure email application. The message from Agent Miller at the Chase Bank Fraud Mitigation Unit sits in my inbox, flagged as high priority. The text is brief and requires a final, manual authorization to proceed. "Ms. Cooper," the message reads, "the fraudulent accounts remain in a pending review status per your instructions. The physical cards have not been declined at any merchant terminals. Please reply to this message with the word 'confirm' to initiate the hard freeze and trigger the felony fraud alert protocols on all associated plastic." I look up from the screen. Across the room, Harper is laughing loudly. Brenda is swiping a credit card through a small mobile terminal attached to her makeup artist's phone, paying for the premium bridal glam services. The transaction processes successfully. The terminal chirps, signaling an approval. Brenda smiles, handing the card back to Harper to put in her purse. They are still spending my identity. They are still comfortable in their theft. I look back down at my phone. My thumb hovers over the digital keyboard. I type a single word into the reply field. "Confirm." I tap the send icon. The email vanishes into the outbox, traveling through the cellular network, transmitting the authorization directly to the bank servers. The action is irreversible. The trap is no longer waiting. The jaws have snapped shut. The credit line is dead. The accounts are frozen. If Brenda attempts to purchase so much as a bottle of water, the merchant terminal will lock her out and flag her name for felony fraud. The financial execution is complete. All that remains is the public revelation. I set the phone down on the table. I turn to the stylist waiting near the vanity. "I am ready to put my dress on now," I say. The next 3 hours pass in a blur of traditional wedding mechanics. I walk down the aisle. I say my vows to Liam. We exchange rings. The ceremony is beautiful, authentic, and deeply meaningful because it is built on a foundation of truth, not a facade of stolen wealth. I do not look at Brenda during the ceremony. I focus entirely on Liam. I promise to build a life with him, knowing that the first act of our marriage will be the demolition of the poison that threatens it. The ceremony concludes. The guests transition from the barn to the outdoor patio for the scheduled cocktail hour. The sun begins to dip below the horizon, casting a warm, golden glow across the property. The air cools down, carrying the scent of catered barbecue and expensive floral arrangements. Liam and I take a few minutes alone in the venue library to breathe before joining the reception. We share a quiet drink, leaning against the heavy oak bookshelves. The peace is absolute but temporary. My phone buzzes in my pocket. I pull it out. It is a text from Carol, the venue coordinator. The message reads, "Sadie, it is almost 9 o'clock. I show the screen to Liam. He sets his glass down. He buttons his suit jacket. Are you ready for the audience?" Liam asks. I pick up my purse, ensuring the thick black dossier and the gold-foiled save-the-date card are secure inside. "Let them in," I reply. We walk out of the library and enter the main reception hall. The room looks stunning. The rustic wooden tables are adorned with the simple mason jars and burlap runners I chose. The space feels intimate and warm. Our true friends and family are seated, enjoying their meals, laughing, and celebrating our marriage. Then, the heavy barn doors at the front of the venue swing open. The atmosphere in the room changes instantly. The warm, rustic aesthetic is invaded by a wave of cold, sharp luxury. Brenda's manufactured audience has arrived. 50 high society elites dressed in formal evening gowns and tailored tuxedos flood into the reception hall. They look around the rustic venue with polite, poorly concealed disdain. They do not know Liam or me. They are here for one specific purpose. They are Harper's future in-laws, country club friends, and local Carmel socialites. The hijacking is underway. The final conflict is here. How do you keep your composure when someone is actively trying to ruin your special day? Let me know in the comments below. The heavy wooden barn doors stand wide open. The influx of 50 uninvited guests shifts the entire center of gravity within the reception hall. The new arrivals filter into the room, their silk evening gowns and sharp tuxedo jackets clashing violently with the rustic wooden crates and mason jar centerpieces. A distinct murmur ripples through my actual wedding guests. Maya, seated at the head table, leans forward, her eyes darting between the strangers and me. Liam's family stops eating, exchanging confused, defensive glances. I stand near the sweetheart table, watching the invasion unfold. Brenda spots the newcomers immediately. She abandons her half-eaten plate of catered barbecue, her heels clicking sharply against the wooden floorboards as she practically sprints toward the entrance. She brushes past me without a second glance, her shoulder clipping my arm. She does not offer an apology. She does not acknowledge that she just shoved the bride at her own reception. Her focus is entirely locked onto the incoming socialites. "Eleanor," Brenda calls out, her voice pitched loud enough to ensure the entire room hears her. She approaches a tall, imposing woman wearing a diamond tennis bracelet that likely costs more than Liam's annual salary. Eleanor Sinclair is Harper's future mother-in-law. She is the matriarch of the Sinclair family, a woman who wields her social influence in Carmel like a blunt instrument. Eleanor inspects the rustic venue with a thinly veiled sneer before accepting Brenda's embrace. "I am so thrilled you could make it for the second half of the evening," Brenda gushes, loud and performative. We kept the early dinner portion very simple for Sadie's crowd, but now the real celebration can begin. "Harper has been waiting for you." Brenda waves her hand, signaling Carol, the venue coordinator. Carol, following my previous instructions to comply with the visual takeover, directs the catering staff to circulate the room holding silver trays loaded with premium champagne flutes. The 50 high society guests accept the drinks. They do not look at me. They do not offer congratulations on my marriage. They form an exclusive cluster near the center of the dance floor, effectively walling off my real guests. I sit down at the sweetheart table. Liam takes the seat next to me. We watch the spectacle from our elevated position. Brenda begins to parade around the room, working the crowd of elites. She moves from group to group, her slate gray dress swishing, her laughter sharp and triumphant. Harper joins her, wearing the lavish champagne silk gown she modeled earlier, looking every bit the star of an event she did not pay for. I observe them with cold, calculated precision. The dramatic irony is intoxicating. Brenda stops near a group of older men wearing expensive suits. I can hear her voice drifting over the ambient music provided by the DJ. Planning 2 weddings back-to-back is quite the undertaking, Brenda boasts, swirling the champagne in her glass. But it is all about clever financing. You have to be strategic with family capital. I have always prided myself on my financial savvy. We secured an incredibly robust line of credit to ensure Harper's transition into the Sinclair family is flawlessly executed. The older men nod approvingly, impressed by her supposed business acumen. I take a sip of my water. I feel a slow, dark smile pull at the corners of my mouth. Brenda is standing in the middle of my reception, bragging to the Carmel elite about the brilliant financial maneuvers she used to secure Harper's future. She is boasting about her clever financing to the exact people she is desperate to impress. She has no idea that less than an hour ago, I authorized a federal account freeze on the very credit line she is currently bragging about. She does not know that the plastic cards sitting in her designer clutch are currently flagged as stolen instruments tied to felony wire fraud. She is reveling in stolen glory, entirely blind to the guillotine waiting above her neck. Every boastful word she speaks is another nail in her social coffin. The tension in the room is thick. My real guests are increasingly uncomfortable, marginalized by the loud, arrogant presence of the Sinclair crowd. I scan the room and lock eyes with Thomas. My father is standing near the bar. He looks incredibly nervous. He holds a glass of bourbon, swirling the amber liquid anxiously. He watches Brenda parade around the dance floor, then looks over at me. He sees the cold, detached expression on my face. The sheer lack of panic in my posture unnerves him more than a screaming match would. Thomas sets his glass down. He weaves through the crowd, avoiding the socialites, and approaches the sweetheart table. He leans in close, his voice dropping to an urgent, hushed whisper. "Sadie," Thomas says, his eyes darting back toward Brenda, "I know this is not what we agreed upon for the schedule. I know she brought a lot of extra people, but please, just keep the peace." He places a hand on the edge of my table, gripping the wood tightly. "Do not make a scene," Thomas pleads. "Your mother is just excited for Harper. The Sinclair family is very important to her. They expect a certain level of hospitality. Just let your mother have this one night. Let her have her moment on the microphone. We will talk about the budget tomorrow." I promise. I look at my father. I study the lines of worry etched around his eyes. He is a coward. He is a man who would rather watch his eldest daughter be humiliated and robbed than face the wrath of his narcissistic wife. He is asking me to swallow the theft of $36,000 so he does not have to deal with an uncomfortable car ride home. I lean forward. I do not raise my voice. I speak with the chilling, absolute certainty of a data analyst reading a terminal output. "Dad," I reply, holding his gaze, "I am not going to stop her. She can have the microphone. She can have the spotlight. She is about to have a night she will never, ever forget." Thomas blinks. He searches my face, trying to decipher the hidden meaning in my words. He senses the danger, the quiet, lethal trap waiting in the shadows, but his desire to avoid conflict prevents him from asking the necessary questions. He nods slowly, stepping back from the table. "Okay," Thomas mutters. "Okay, just let her speak." He retreats toward the bar, abandoning me to the wolves, exactly as he has done my entire life. I turn my attention back to the center of the room. Brenda is finishing a conversation with Eleanor Sinclair. Brenda signals Harper to stand beside her. She raises her hand, motioning toward the DJ booth located in the corner of the reception hall. The DJ, a professional I briefed extensively prior to the ceremony, catches my eye. I offer him a single, definitive nod. The ambient music fades out. The room goes quiet. The low hum of conversation ceases as all attention turns toward the dance floor. "Ladies and gentlemen," the DJ announces, his voice echoing through the venue speakers. "If I could direct your attention to the center of the room, we are transitioning to the speech portion of the evening." The 50 high society guests applaud politely. My actual guests remain silent, watching the spectacle with a mixture of confusion and mounting dread. Brenda steps forward. She practically sprints toward the microphone stand, leaving Harper beaming in the center of the floor. Brenda grabs the microphone, gripping the metal shaft tightly. Her diamond rings catch the venue lighting, flashing brightly against the dark metal. She turns to face the crowd. She does not look at Liam or me. She looks directly at the Sinclair family. The hijacking is complete. Brenda has secured her stage, her audience, and her microphone. She believes she is about to deliver the crowning achievement of her social career. She thinks she has won. She has no idea she is holding a live grenade. The countdown is over. The pin is pulled. The DJ barely finishes his announcement before Brenda is moving. She crosses the polished hardwood floor with terrifying speed, intercepting the best man before he can even reach the microphone stand. The best man, Liam's brother, pauses in confusion. Brenda offers him a tight, artificial smile and simply plucks the wireless microphone from his hand, leaving him standing awkwardly on the edge of the dance floor. She claims the center of the room. A sharp, unpleasant whine of audio feedback pierces the air. Brenda grips the microphone too close to the receiver head. Her diamond rings clink loudly against the metal casing. The piercing sound causes several guests to wince, but Brenda does not flinch. She thrives in the resulting silence. She adjusts her posture, smoothing the fabric of her slate gray dress, preparing to deliver the performance of her life. "Thank you, everyone," Brenda begins, her voice booming through the venue speakers. Her tone is practiced, dripping with the faux humility of a politician at a fundraising gala. She sweeps her gaze across the room, locking eyes specifically with Eleanor Sinclair and the other high society arrivals. "It is a profound joy to stand before you all tonight. As a mother, you spend your entire life preparing for moments like this. You invest your time, your energy, and your capital into ensuring your children step into the world with the strongest possible foundation." She pauses for dramatic effect. She does not look at the sweetheart table. She does not acknowledge Liam or me. "We gathered here earlier today to witness Sadie and Liam exchange their vows," Brenda continues, waving a dismissive hand in our general direction. "It was a very sweet, very simple little ceremony, exactly what they wanted. But tonight, as the evening progresses, we transition into a broader celebration of the Cooper family legacy." A collective, quiet gasp ripples through my side of the room. My bridesmaids exchange horrified glances. Maya's knuckles turn white as she grips the edge of her wooden chair. Liam's mother closes her eyes, shaking her head in silent disbelief. Brenda ignores the shock radiating from my actual guests. She pivots entirely, turning her back to the sweetheart table to face Harper. "Harper, my beautiful girl," Brenda says, her voice swelling with pride. "Please come up here." Harper steps forward, gliding across the dance floor in her lavish champagne silk gown. She waves to the Sinclair crowd, adopting the regal posture of a minor royal greeting her subjects. The 50 elite guests applaud politely, their claps echoing thinly in the cavernous barn. "As many of you know," Brenda announces, raising her free hand to encompass the room, "tonight serves a dual purpose. We are not just closing one chapter, we are opening an incredibly exciting new one. I am thrilled to formally announce the engagement of Harper Cooper to William Sinclair. Eleanor Sinclair nods approvingly from the front row of the standing crowd. We have spent months planning this transition, Brenda boasts, the arrogance bleeding fully into her tone. It requires a tremendous amount of foresight and financial dedication to orchestrate the kind of future Harper and William deserve. We have made significant sacrifices, reallocated our resources, and generously invested in ensuring their upcoming nuptials represent the absolute pinnacle of Carmel society. She raises her champagne glass. The crystal catches the light of the overhead chandelier. Please raise your glasses with me, Brenda commands the room. To Harper and William, to the beautiful future we have so generously invested in. The 50 high society guests raise their flutes. A polite murmur of congratulations drifts from their cluster. My side of the room remains dead silent. No glasses are raised, no cheers are offered. The sheer disrespect, the blatant hijacking of my wedding reception to announce an engagement funded by stolen money paralyzes my guests with secondhand embarrassment. I do not feel embarrassed. I feel a profound, chilling clarity. Brenda has built the scaffold. She has tied the knot. She has placed the rope around her own neck and invited the Carmel elite to watch the execution. She believes she is celebrating a financial victory. She is actually reading her own indictment. I place my napkin on the table. Liam looks at me. He sees the shift in my posture. He knows the quiet strategy is over. He gives me a single, firm nod. I stand up from the sweetheart table. The movement catches the eye of a few guests near the front. The rustle of my wedding dress sounds distinct in the quiet tension of the room. I do not rush. I do not storm the floor. I move with deliberate, measured precision. I reach down and pick up the thick, plastic-bound black dossier resting beneath my chair. The burn book is heavy, filled with bank affidavits, IP logs, and surveillance printouts. I place the gold-foiled save-the-date card on top of the black cover, holding it firmly with my left hand. I step away from the table. The room watches me. The conversation among the Sinclair crowd falters as they notice the bride walking toward the center of the dance floor. Maya holds her breath. Thomas, standing near the bar, goes completely rigid, his eyes locked on the black folder in my hands. I cross the hardwood floor. The distance feels immense, yet I cover it in seconds. I radiate absolute, unbreakable control. I am not the hysterical weeping daughter Brenda expects. I am a forensic data analyst delivering an audit report. I stop 3 feet away from Brenda. Brenda lowers her champagne glass. Her smile falters slightly, confused by my approach. She expects me to stand beside her, to offer a submissive congratulations to Harper, to play the role of the supportive, lesser sibling. Sadie, Brenda says, pulling the microphone slightly away from her mouth, though her voice still carries. We are in the middle of the toast. I look at her. I look at Harper, who is still beaming, entirely oblivious to the impending destruction. I hold out my right hand. "May I borrow the microphone, Mom?" I ask. My voice is calm, polite, and entirely devoid of anger. I would like to add a few words to the toast. Brenda hesitates. She looks at my outstretched hand. She looks at the thick black folder tucked under my left arm. She does not know what is inside the dossier, but my cold, professional demeanor unnerves her. She glances at Eleanor Sinclair, feeling the weight of the social expectation. She cannot refuse the bride the microphone without looking petty in front of her high society guests. Reluctantly, Brenda hands over the microphone. "Of course, darling," Brenda says, stepping back slightly, though she remains close, ready to intervene if I stray from the script. Keep it brief. I wrap my fingers around the cool metal of the microphone. I turn to face the room. I look out at the sea of faces. I see Maya gripping her chair. I see Liam standing tall at the sweetheart table. I see the 50 uninvited guests watching me with mild curiosity. I see Eleanor Sinclair waiting to be impressed. I raise the microphone to my lips. "Thank you, Brenda," I say, my voice projecting clearly, filling the entire venue. "I appreciate you taking the time to explain exactly how you managed the family resources to fund this beautiful evening." I take the gold-foiled save-the-date card resting on top of my dossier and hold it up for the room to see. The metallic lettering catches the light. Brenda smiles, assuming I am participating in her manufactured celebration. She thinks I am endorsing the theft. She has no idea what is about to happen. The final payoff is here. The one sentence that will end her reign of terror is cued and ready to be delivered. Have you ever waited patiently for an abuser to finish bragging before you drop the evidence on the table? How did it feel? Let me know below. The gold-foiled save-the-date card glints under the venue lighting. I hold it up between my index and middle finger, ensuring the 50 high society guests in the center of the room can see the thick, expensive cardstock. This beautiful invitation is a perfect example of the financial dedication my mother just mentioned, I announce into the microphone. My voice remains steady, devoid of panic or anger. I speak with the clear, unhurried cadence of a professional delivering a quarterly audit review. I turn the card over. I look down at the back panel where I previously wrote a specific numerical figure in black ink. According to the venue deposit receipt logged on the back of this card, the printing cost for this stationery, combined with the initial booking fees for Harper's upcoming event, totals precisely $6,800. It is a stunning display of wealth. Brenda smiles, assuming I am continuing her boastful narrative. She preens under the perceived compliment, her ego blinding her to the trap closing around her ankles. Eleanor Sinclair nods approvingly, validating the expenditure. I lower the card. I look directly at Eleanor, then sweep my gaze across the rest of the Sinclair family guests. But true wealth requires transparency, I continue. So I think it is only fair that we are completely transparent about how my mother so generously invested in Harper's future. The smile on Brenda's face falters. Her posture stiffens. The specific use of the word transparent triggers an alarm in her mind. But she cannot yet comprehend the scope of the danger. She takes a half step toward me, reaching her hand out as if to gently reclaim the microphone. I take a deliberate step back, denying her the opportunity to interrupt. I raise my voice slightly, commanding the acoustic space of the barn. "Please raise your glasses to my mother," I state, delivering the sentence I have carried in my head for 3 weeks. The 50 socialites instinctively lift their champagne flutes, conditioned by social etiquette to comply with a toast. "Please raise your glasses to my mother, who is celebrating Harper's engagement tonight using the $22,000 she stole by forging my signature on a fraudulent credit line, and the $14,500 she embezzled from our family trust." Both of these accounts are currently frozen, and the Indiana State Police Financial Crimes Unit is actively investigating her for felony wire fraud as we speak. I lower the microphone. The silence that slams into the room is absolute. It is a dense, physical silence. The ambient noise of clinking glassware, shuffling feet, and polite murmurs ceases entirely. The only sound in the cavernous venue is the low, steady hum of the HVAC system pushing cold air through the ceiling vents. The 50 high society guests stand frozen, their champagne flutes hovering midway to their mouths. Eleanor Sinclair stares at me, her eyes wide with shock, before her gaze snaps directly to Brenda. The disgust settling onto the matriarch's face is visceral. I turn my body toward the nearest high-top cocktail table. I hold the thick, plastic-bound black dossier in my left hand. I lift it slightly, ensuring everyone sees the bulk of the paperwork. I drop the burn book onto the wooden table. The heavy binder lands with a loud, authoritative thud that echoes like a gunshot in the silent room. The dossier falls open. The pristine white pages spill out across the table's surface. The documents are visible to anyone standing within 10 feet. The bank fraud affidavits bearing my electronic signature. the IP login logs highlighting the Carmel router coordinates, the legacy account transfer receipts showing the $14,000 routed to Harper & Company event planning. And resting right on top, stark and undeniable, is the grainy black and white surveillance printout from the Bella Voce bridal boutique. It clearly displays Brenda smiling at the checkout register, holding the fraudulent physical credit card, while Harper stands next to her holding the champagne silk gown she is currently wearing. I do not scream. I do not cry. I deliver the evidence with the clinical detachment of a forensic analyst closing a case file. Brenda looks at the table. She sees the surveillance photo. She sees the bank logos on the affidavits. The blood drains from her face with terrifying speed. Her skin turns a sickly, chalky white. The confident, arrogant socialite vanishes, replaced instantly by a woman staring at the physical manifestation of her impending prison sentence. Her mouth opens, but no sound emerges. She looks like she is suffocating on dry land. Brenda stammers, taking a shaky, uncoordinated step backward. She looks frantically at Eleanor Sinclair, desperate to salvage her reputation. But Eleanor has already turned away, her face twisting into a mask of pure revulsion. "No," Brenda whispers, the word barely audible. "Sadie, what are you doing?" "I am establishing transparency, Brenda," I reply softly, speaking directly to her without the microphone. "You wanted an audience. You brought 50 extra people to my wedding to show off your clever financing. I am just providing them with the receipts." Brenda's eyes roll back in her head. Her knees buckle. The sheer psychological shock of the public exposure, combined with the realization that she is facing federal felony charges, overwhelms her central nervous system. She collapses. She falls straight backward, her slate gray dress twisting around her legs. She hits the polished hardwood dance floor with a heavy, ungraceful impact. She faints completely dead away, lying motionless in the center of the room she attempted to hijack. Harper screams. It is a loud, piercing, hysterical sound. She drops her champagne glass, the crystal shattering against the floorboards, and drops to her knees beside our unconscious mother. "Mom! Mom! Wake up!" Harper looks up at me, her face contorted in panic and fury. "What did you do to her?" I look down at my sister. I look at the champagne silk gown purchased with my stolen identity. "I did not do anything to her, Harper," I state coldly. "I just stopped paying for her lies." I do not drop to my knees to assist. I do not offer a napkin or a glass of water. I feel no obligation to comfort the architects of my financial ruin. I turn away from the chaotic scene on the floor. I walk calmly toward the DJ booth. The DJ is standing behind his equipment console, his mouth hanging open in sheer disbelief. He has likely witnessed hundreds of wedding dramas, but he has never seen a bride execute a federal fraud indictment during the toasts. I hold out the wireless microphone. The DJ takes it from my hand mechanically, still staring at the unconscious woman on the dance floor. "Thank you," I say politely. I walk back toward the sweetheart table. Liam is standing, his posture tall and protective. Maya and my bridesmaids have risen from their chairs, forming a solid defensive wall behind my seat. They look at me, not with horror, but with fierce, unyielding solidarity. The public execution is complete. The illusion of the wealthy, benevolent Cooper family is shattered, replaced by the documented reality of theft and extortion. Brenda brought the Carmel elite to witness her triumph and instead provided an audience for her spectacular downfall. The chaos of the immediate aftermath is about to erupt. The socialites will flee, the venue manager will demand payment, and my father will be forced to choose between his suburban image and the harsh reality of the crimes committed under his roof. The sound of Harper screaming slices through the stunned silence of the reception hall. The 50 high society guests, previously paralyzed by the sudden revelation of felony fraud, jolt into motion. The carefully constructed facade of the Cooper family's social event shatters completely. replaced by frantic, chaotic urgency. Eleanor Sinclair does not walk toward the unconscious woman on the floor. She turns on her heel, her diamond tennis bracelet flashing under the chandeliers, and marches directly toward the heavy barn doors. Her husband follows closely behind. The matriarch's exit signals a mass evacuation. The rest of the Carmel elite scramble to retrieve their evening wraps and luxury clutches, desperate to escape the blast radius of a federal investigation. The loud scraping of 50 wooden chairs pushing back against the hardwood floor creates a chaotic symphony of retreat. The sharp, rapid clicking of high heels echoes across the room as the uninvited audience flees the venue. They do not say goodbye. They do not offer assistance. They abandon Brenda with ruthless efficiency, insulating their own reputations from the scandal. Thomas pushes his way through the scattering crowd. His face is flushed, a deep, panicked crimson. He drops to his knees beside Harper, grabbing a glass of ice water from a nearby table. He splashes the cold liquid directly onto Brenda's face. Brenda gasps, her eyes flying open. She inhales sharply, a ragged, sputtering breath. The cold water ruins her immaculate makeup, leaving dark streaks of mascara running down her cheeks. She sits up slowly, gripping Thomas's arm for support. She looks around the room, her gaze frantically searching for Eleanor Sinclair, hoping to salvage the disaster. She sees only the backs of the retreating socialites. The elite audience she hijacked my wedding to impress is gone. Before Brenda can even attempt to stand, the heavy wooden doors near the catering kitchen swing open. The venue manager, a formidable woman named Patricia who oversees all financial operations for the estate, marches straight onto the dance floor. Patricia holds a black leather billfold and a small mobile credit terminal. Her expression is rigid, entirely devoid of customer service pleasantries. Patricia stops directly in front of Brenda, who is still sitting on the hardwood floor, leaning against Thomas. "Mrs. Cooper," Patricia announces, her voice carrying a loud, authoritative edge that cuts through the remaining murmur of my actual guests. "The final bar tab for your additional 50 guests needs immediate settlement. However, the primary card you placed on file this afternoon to cover the open bar has been flagged by the merchant network." Brenda blinks, still disoriented from fainting. Her hand instinctively goes to her designer clutch, resting near her leg. "Just run the secondary chase card," she mutters, her voice weak and trembling. "It is the platinum line. It has plenty of capital." "I already attempted the secondary card," Patricia states, her volume increasing, ensuring everyone in the vicinity hears the transaction status. The network denied the authorization. The terminal returned a hard decline code. Your card was specifically locked and flagged for felony fraud. The words echo in the space left behind by the fleeing elites. Felony fraud. Brenda stares at the venue manager, the reality of the financial execution finally penetrating her vanity. The stolen credit line is dead. The safety net is gone. She has no access to capital. She is sitting on the floor of a rented barn in a ruined dress, publicly branded a criminal in front of the venue staff and my remaining wedding guests. "I need an alternative payment method right now," Patricia demands, tapping the mobile terminal, "or I am locking the doors and calling the local police department to report theft of services." Brenda opens her mouth, but she has no answers. She looks at Thomas, her eyes wide with desperation. Thomas pats his pockets automatically, a hollow gesture. He knows he does not carry enough personal liquidity to cover an open bar tab for 50 high society drinkers. The humiliation is absolute. The payoff is delivered not through my own rage, but through the cold, bureaucratic machinery of merchant banking protocols. Then the situation violently escalates. Thomas realizes the gravity of the public exposure. He realizes the Carmel house is vulnerable. His reputation is destroyed, and his wife is facing indictment. The passive enabler, the man who spent 30 years staring at his shoes to avoid conflict, finally breaks. He stands up from the floor. He does not turn to Patricia to resolve the bill. He turns toward the sweetheart table. He locks eyes with me. His face contorts into a mask of pure, unadulterated fury. He charges across the dance floor, his hands balled into tight fists at his sides. "Sadie." Thomas screams, his voice cracking with rage. "You vindictive, ungrateful brat." Liam steps instantly in front of my chair, placing his body between me and my father. Liam raises his hands, adopting a firm, defensive posture. "Step back, Thomas," Liam warns, his voice low and dangerous. "Do not take another step toward her." Thomas ignores him, trying to push past Liam's shoulder. He points a shaking finger directly at my face. "You ruined your sister's life. You ruined this family." Thomas shouts, spit flying from his lips. "We had to use your credit, Sadie. Do you understand that? We had to use it. My corporate pension was slashed 6 months ago. The retirement fund is completely drained. We are drowning in mortgage debt." We could not let Harper's new in-laws know we were broke. If the Sinclairs found out we had no liquid assets, they would have called off the engagement. We needed your credit profile to bridge the gap until the wedding. The confession hangs in the air, heavy and toxic. The plot twist slams into me, recontextualizing my entire understanding of the family dynamic. Thomas was not just a passive bystander. He was not an oblivious husband bullied by an overbearing wife. He was an active, willing participant in the conspiracy. He knew my pension comments from years ago were a lie. He knew the Carmel house was heavily leveraged. He knew Brenda was forging my signature to fund Harper's luxury wardrobe. Thomas allowed his wife to steal $36,000 from my future because he was too terrified to admit to his wealthy neighbors that he was financially ruined. He sacrificed his eldest daughter on the altar of his own suburban pride. "We were going to pay it back eventually," Thomas continues to yell, his logic entirely fractured by desperation. "We just needed time. You could have absorbed the debt for a few years. You make a good salary. You did not have to call the police and destroy us in public." I remain seated behind Liam. I look at the man who raised me. I feel no sympathy for his ruined pension. I feel no pity for his impending foreclosure. I feel only the cold, sharp clarity of a data analyst who has successfully excised a corrupted variable from the system. "Dad," I reply, my voice projecting clearly over his frantic shouting, "you did not borrow money. You committed federal wire fraud to buy designer shoes and country club lunches because you are too weak to live within your actual means." I point toward the thick black dossier resting on the cocktail table. "The affidavits are signed," I state. "The IP logs tracking the fraudulent applications to your home router are submitted to the Indiana State Police. The surveillance footage of Mom using the forged card is in the hands of the financial crimes detective. If you knew about the identity theft and benefited from the stolen funds, you are an accessory to a felony." Thomas freezes. The anger drains from his face, replaced by the sudden, terrifying realization that his confession just implicated him in the criminal conspiracy. He stares at me, his mouth opening and closing silently. "I highly suggest you stop screaming at my husband," I advise him, my tone entirely devoid of familial affection. "You need to take whatever cash you have left in your checking account and get your own lawyer." The finality of the statement breaks him. Thomas stumbles backward, his shoulders slumping in defeat. Maya moves decisively. She steps out from behind the sweetheart table, signaling the rest of the bridal party. 6 women, dressed in matching navy gowns, move in unison to form a solid, protective wall around the sweetheart table, physically blocking Thomas, Brenda, and Harper from approaching me again. Patricia, the venue manager, gestures sharply to the security staff waiting near the main entrance. 2 large men in black suits walk onto the dance floor. "Escort them off the property," Patricia commands, pointing at the Cooper family. "They are trespassing. If they resist, call the local precinct." Thomas does not resist. He turns around, grabs Brenda by the arm and hauls her to her feet. Brenda leans heavily against him, her slate gray dress wrinkled, her mascara ruined, her arrogance utterly demolished. Harper follows them, sobbing loudly, clutching the champagne silk gown purchased with my stolen identity. The three of them walk toward the exit, escorted by security. They look small, pathetic, and entirely defeated. The heavy wooden barn doors close behind them with a definitive thud, sealing them out of my life forever. The reception hall is quiet again. My actual guests, the people who love and support Liam and me, remain seated. They witness the execution, and they understand the necessity of the boundary. Was exposing her at the wedding taking it too far, or exactly what she deserved? If someone tried to hijack your wedding with stolen money, would you burn their reputation to the ground? Let's debate in the comments. I stand up, I walk around the sweetheart table and look at my guests. I offer a genuine, relaxed smile. Thank you all for your patience, I announce. The unwanted variables have been removed. We have a lot of good food left, and the bar is fully funded. Please enjoy the rest of the evening. I turn to the DJ. Start the music. The DJ hits a button. An upbeat, energetic song fills the barn. The tension in the room dissipates, replaced by a wave of collective relief. The celebration begins, authentic and untainted by Brenda's toxic vanity. The night is finally ours. The legal reality waiting for my parents on Monday morning will be brutal, comprehensive, and fully documented. The procedural justice will ensure they face the consequences of their narcissism, while Liam and I build our future on a foundation of absolute truth. The weeks following the wedding transitioned from chaotic adrenaline to cold, meticulous procedure. The emotional severing occurred on the dance floor. The legal severing occurs within the sterile walls of the Indiana justice system. I walk down the driveway of the new home Liam and I purchased. The morning air holds the crisp chill of approaching autumn. I open the black metal mailbox and pull out a stack of correspondence. Hidden between a grocery circular and a utility bill is a stiff, heavy envelope. The return address, printed in the upper left corner, belongs to the Marion County District Attorney's Office. I slide my finger under the flap, tearing the thick paper. The letter inside is a formal victim notification. It details the upcoming preliminary hearings. Brenda and Thomas Cooper are officially indicted by a grand jury on multiple felony counts, including wire fraud, identity deception, and conspiracy to commit grand theft. The legal machinery is moving with terrifying efficiency, driven by the comprehensive digital dossier I compiled and submitted. The document feels heavy in my hands. It is the final receipt for my stolen childhood. The mechanism of their downfall possesses a profound, almost poetic symmetry. It turns out the universe possesses a highly developed sense of irony. Eleanor Sinclair, the wealthy matriarch Harper was desperate to impress. The woman Brenda hijacked my wedding to court is not just a Carmel socialite. Eleanor holds a significant professional title. She serves as a regional vice president of compliance and risk management for Chase Bank, the exact financial institution Brenda targeted to open the fraudulent $22,000 credit line. When I initiated the hard freeze on my wedding day, the system routed the felony fraud flag directly through Eleanor's regional division for secondary review. The Monday morning following the disastrous reception, Eleanor sat at her mahogany desk and reviewed the internal security alerts. She stared at a file detailing extensive identity theft, forged signatures, and fraudulent retail transactions. The suspect listed in the internal memo was the mother of her future daughter-in-law. The authorized user enjoying the stolen funds was Harper herself. Eleanor did not hesitate. She did not attempt to cover up the crime to protect her son's relationship. She initiated immediate corporate prosecution. It was Eleanor Sinclair's own compliance team that escalated the internal bank investigation to the federal authorities. Eleanor personally handed the financial records over to the state prosecutors, ensuring the bank pursued maximum restitution and criminal penalties. Brenda's obsession with high society delivered her directly into the crosshairs of the very woman she idolized. The social execution was swift and absolute. Harper's engagement ended less than 48 hours after the wedding reception. William Sinclair, acting under strict instructions from his mother, arrived at the Carmel house with a moving crew. He packed up the items Harper had stored at his apartment, retrieved the 3-carat diamond engagement ring, and severed all contact. The Sinclair family issued a brief, icy statement to their social circle, formally announcing the cancellation of the wedding and distancing themselves entirely from the Cooper family's legal scandal. Harper, suddenly exiled from the luxury lifestyle she assumed was her birthright, spiraled into a frantic panic. She attempted to contact me. My phone buzzed late one evening while Liam and I were unpacking boxes in our new living room. The text message preview displayed Harper's name. I had not blocked her number yet, maintaining a passive line of communication strictly for monitoring purposes, in case the defense attorneys attempted witness tampering. I tapped the screen to read the message. Sadie, please, you have to fix this. William left me, Eleanor hates us, my whole life is ruined. Mom and Dad are fighting constantly, and the lawyers want a retainer fee we do not have. Just tell the bank you authorized the credit line. Tell them it was a misunderstanding over the wedding budget. Drop the charges so I can get my ring back. I promise we will pay you back eventually. Please. I stared at the glowing text. The sheer lack of accountability was staggering. Harper did not apologize for her role in the theft. She did not express remorse for wearing a $4,000 dress purchased with my stolen identity. She did not care that I was liable for $36,000 of debt. She only cared about retrieving her diamond ring and regaining her position in the Sinclair family. She wanted me to perjure myself, to risk a federal false statement charge, to save her vanity. I did not reply. I did not engage. I tapped the contact icon, navigated to the settings menu, and hit block caller. I severed the digital connection permanently. The silence was final. The financial reality of the indictments crushed Thomas. His corporate pension was indeed severely slashed during a company restructuring earlier that year. The Carmel house, the 5-bedroom monument to Brenda's suburban pride, was heavily leveraged with secondary mortgages they used to maintain their facade of wealth. When the legal bills began arriving, the fragile financial house of cards collapsed. The defense attorneys demanded massive, upfront retainer fees to handle the complex felony fraud charges. Thomas had no liquid assets. The stolen $14,000 from my vendor fund had been seized by the state police as evidence. The fraudulent Chase credit line was dead. Thomas was forced to list the Carmel house for a rapid short sale. The property sold below market value to an aggressive investor. The proceeds barely covered the outstanding mortgages and the initial legal retainers. Brenda and Thomas moved into a cramped 2-bedroom apartment in a less desirable municipality, completely cut off from the country club elite they spent 3 decades trying to impress. They lost the house. They lost the social standing. They lost Harper's golden engagement. They lost everything they valued, and they lost it because I simply refused to be their silent financial shield. I walk back up the driveway, holding the district attorney's envelope. The sun feels warm against my skin. The air in my new neighborhood is quiet, lacking the oppressive, curated tension of Carmel. I enter the kitchen. Liam is sitting at the island, reviewing a hardware store receipt for a minor plumbing repair. He looks up as I walk in, noticing the thick envelope in my hand. "Is that from the prosecutor?" Liam asks, setting his pen down. I nod. I place the envelope on the granite counter. The preliminary hearings are scheduled for next month. The grand jury issued the indictments. The charges are moving forward. Liam reaches out and rests his hand over mine. "How do you feel?" I consider the question. I search my internal emotional landscape for traces of guilt, regret, or lingering anger. I find none of those things. The data set is clean. The The variables are resolved. I feel precise. I answer truthfully. I feel like the equation finally balances. The justice is absolute, documented, and poetic. I did not need to scream. I did not need to lower myself to Brenda's level of emotional manipulation. I merely gathered the data, secured the perimeters, and let their own arrogance dictate their destruction. Brenda believed she was the smartest person in the room. She believed her ability to lie and scheme made her untouchable. She forgot that a lie requires a willing audience, and the moment I stopped clapping, her entire stage collapsed. We are officially insulated from the fallout. Robert Vance, my civil attorney, secured a summary judgment against the remaining assets from the house sale, ensuring the stolen $14,000 from my vendor fund is slowly recuperated through wage garnishments. It will take time, but the legal mechanism is locked in place. The Chase Bank Fraud Division entirely cleared my credit profile, scrubbing the $22,000 shadow account from my history. My identity is mine again. The trial process will be lengthy and exhausting for my parents. Brenda faces potential incarceration, but even if her expensive attorneys negotiate a plea deal for probation, the true punishment is already inflicted. She is a convicted felon living in a cheap apartment, exiled from the only society she cares about, permanently marked by the scandal she created. For a narcissist, social irrelevance is a fate far worse than a prison cell. Liam smiles, a slow, grounded expression of deep affection. We survived the blast zone. We built the blast zone, I correct him mildly. Now we get to build the rest of our lives. The storm is over. The toxic elements are neutralized. The final section of this journey is not about the people who tried to destroy my future, but about the peace I secured by refusing to let them. It is about understanding the mechanics of a boundary and the profound freedom that follows when you finally lock the door. The late afternoon sun casts long amber shadows across the wooden floorboards of our wraparound porch. The neighborhood is quiet. The distant sound of a lawnmower hums 3 streets over, blending with the gentle rustle of the maple trees lining our driveway. The air carries the crisp scent of autumn leaves and damp earth. It is a stark contrast to the sterile, manicured environment of Carmel. This space feels authentic. It feels lived in. Most importantly, it belongs entirely to us. Liam sits in the wicker chair next to mine. He holds a mug of black coffee, his long legs stretched out, resting his boots on the bottom railing. He watches a pair of robins dart across the front yard. His posture is relaxed, stripped of the defensive tension we carried for the past several months. I reach down to the small wooden table situated between our chairs. A clear plastic container sits next to my glass of iced tea. Inside the container rests a single vanilla cupcake. I pull the plastic lid back. The packaging crinkles sharply in the quiet evening air. I peel the thin paper wrapper away from the base, exposing the dense yellow cake. The frosting is thick, heavily processed, and overly sweet. I bought it from the bakery aisle of the local grocery store for $5. I take a bite. The sugar coats my tongue. It is the exact same brand of cupcake I ate in the strip mall parking lot on the day Elise left that life-altering voicemail. During that afternoon, the cheap frosting tasted like ash and betrayal. It tasted like the realization that my own mother viewed my wedding as a slush fund for her vanity. Today, sitting on my own porch, the same $5 pastry tastes extraordinary. It tastes like victory. It tastes like unburdened, uncompromised peace. I swallow the bite and wash it down with a sip of iced tea. I did not need an $800 custom-tiered cake to validate my marriage. I only needed a partner who stood by my side while we dismantled the poison threatening our foundation. Next to the plastic container rests a stack of official documents. The top sheet of paper bears the official letterhead of the Experian Credit Bureau. I run my fingertips over the crisp, white page. The black ink displays my comprehensive financial summary. The data grid is flawless. The revolving credit section shows a single healthy trade line. The $22,000 shadow account, the fraudulent Chase signature line opened in my name, is gone. It does not show a zero balance. It is entirely erased, scrubbed from the digital archives by the Bank Fraud Division following the felony indictments. The red markers of severe financial distress are vanished. The high utilization warnings are deleted. My credit score sits in the excellent tier, fully restored to the metric I meticulously built over my adult life. My identity is a blank slate again. My name belongs only to me. The legal machinery wrapped up its primary operations last week. The prosecutor offered a plea agreement to avoid the expense of a protracted federal trial. Brenda, terrified of facing a jury and facing standard incarceration, accepted the terms. She pled guilty to 2 counts of felony identity deception and wire fraud. The judge handed down a harsh, uncompromising sentence tailored to her specific crimes. Brenda received 5 years of strict, supervised probation. She is legally barred from opening any new lines of credit, acting as a fiduciary, or managing accounts for any other individual. The court mandated heavy restitution orders, garnishing her future wages to repay the stolen vendor funds. Furthermore, the judge ordered 500 hours of community service. Brenda's true punishment, however, exists far outside the courtroom. Her pristine Carmel bubble popped with deafening finality. The local news outlets published the indictment records. The details of the forged signatures, the stolen wedding funds, and the hijacked reception became public knowledge in her suburban enclave. The women she spent 30 years trying to impress now avoid her in the grocery store aisles. She was unceremoniously removed from her country club committees. The social exile is thorough and permanent. She lives in a cramped apartment, stripped of her wealth and her elite status, serving her community service hours picking up trash along the county highways. Thomas shares that cramped apartment. He lost his sprawling house and his comfortable retirement because he lacked the courage to confront his wife. He traded his integrity for a quiet life and ultimately lost both. Harper experienced the harshest collision with reality. Stripped of the Sinclair family engagement and the stolen credit cards, her luxury lifestyle evaporated overnight. The designer dresses and imported shoes were liquidated to pay for basic living expenses. She is currently working a standard retail shift at a local shopping mall, forced to clock in and out, earning minimum wage. The golden child was finally introduced to the real world without a financial shield to protect her from the consequences of her profound entitlement. I observe the clean credit report on the table. The data analyst in me appreciates the balanced equation. Setting a boundary is often framed as an act of betrayal by the people who benefit from your lack of them. When you stop absorbing the damage, the parasite views your self-preservation as an attack. Thomas called me vindictive. Brenda called me cruel. They wanted to frame the destruction of their lives as my fault, assigning me the role of the villain to excuse their own criminal behavior. I did not seek revenge. Revenge requires emotion, anger, and a desire to inflict pain. I simply sought reality. I gathered the data. I secured the perimeter. I handed the irrefutable math to the authorities and let gravity perform its natural function. They built a grand, spectacular stage using stolen materials, and I merely removed the hidden supports. They fell under the weight of their own arrogance. Liam shifts in his chair. He reaches out and traces the outline of my hand resting on the armrest. He looks at the clear sky, taking a deep breath of the autumn air. "We did it, Sadie," Liam says, his voice carrying a profound sense of closure. The static is gone. I nod, interlacing my fingers with his. The static is gone. The noise of their constant demands, the underlying dread of their manipulation, the heavy burden of being the designated utility child, it is all washed away. Our marriage did not begin with a lavish gala or a 5-tier fondant centerpiece. It began in a crucible. We forged our partnership in the federal investigation, proving that our commitment could withstand the ultimate betrayal. We protected our future. The sun dips below the horizon. The streetlights flicker on, casting warm pools of illumination across the quiet neighborhood. I take one final bite of the vanilla cupcake. The sweetness is perfect. I look at the camera, addressing the person listening to this story right now. If you are sitting in a dark room, shrinking yourself to fit into a family structure that only views you as a resource, listen to me very carefully. You do not owe your abusers a polite silence. You do not owe your enablers a comfortable lie. You do not owe anyone your identity, your finances, or your future. When toxic people demand your loyalty, they are usually demanding your submission. Do not give it to them. Gather your evidence, secure your escape route. Let them brag, let them boast, and let them build their own traps. Then, when the audience is watching, hand them the receipts. Thank you for staying with me until the very end. If this story empowered you to check your own credit report, or if it gave you the courage to finally stand up to the people using your name, please subscribe to the channel. Share your own victory in the comments below. I read every single one. And this community thrives on our shared strength. Protect your peace. See you in the next video. There is a particular kind of silence that settles over a home when the truth finally strips away the paint and the polish. It is not the peaceful quiet of a Sunday morning, but the hollow, echoing stillness of a structure that has lost its foundation. When we look back at the ashes of the Cooper family, it is easy to fixate on the stolen $22,000, the forged signatures, and the dramatic collapse on a hardwood dance floor. But the real tragedy of this story did not begin with a canceled wedding cake or a hijacked reception. It began decades earlier, in the quiet, everyday moments where the sacred contract of parenting was quietly, systematically rewritten. In American culture, the traditional family structure is often held up as the ultimate sanctuary, a place where children are meant to find their moral compass, their sense of worth, and their understanding of fairness. We place a heavy emphasis on the outward markers of success: the sprawling house in the right suburban zip code, the elite college acceptances, the brilliant high society weddings. But when the pursuit of the image supersedes the integrity of the home, the family ceases to be a sanctuary. It becomes a stage. And on that stage, children are no longer viewed as individuals to be nurtured. They become props to be managed. Brenda Cooper's profound failure was not merely financial. It was a catastrophic failure of emotional awareness. A parent's primary responsibility is to guide a child toward becoming a resilient, empathetic, and independent adult. This requires an environment rooted in absolute honesty. Honesty is the currency of trust. When Brenda sat at her marble kitchen island, forcing a 12-year-old Sadie to write her name over and over on blank checks under the guise of practicing penmanship, she wasn't just planning a future forgery. She was teaching her daughter that reality is whatever the loudest person in the room decides it is. She replaced the vital lesson of integrity with the dark art of manipulation. In a healthy family dynamic, fairness is the bedrock of emotional security. Fairness does not always mean giving everyone the exact same thing at the exact same time, but it does mean distributing love, respect, and protection equally. The dynamic between the golden child and the scapegoat is perhaps one of the most destructive patterns a parent can introduce into a home. By placing Harper on a pedestal and treating Sadie as a boundless, expendable resource, Brenda did not just destroy her relationship with her eldest daughter, she crippled her youngest. We often overlook the tragedy of the golden child. Harper was insulated from consequence, wrapped in a shimmering cocoon of stolen money and manufactured prestige. But a parent who shields a child from the reality of hard work, accountability, and financial limitation is not offering protection. They are ensuring future ruin. When the illusion finally shattered, Harper was left with no coping mechanisms, no real-world skills, and no moral center. She was left standing in a $4,000 dress she couldn't afford, begging for a diamond ring from a family that despised her. True long-term guidance requires allowing children to stumble, to earn their victories, and to understand the weight of their own choices. And then there is the quiet, devastating failure of the enabler. In a traditional family structure, both parents are tasked with guarding the physical and emotional safety of their children. Thomas Cooper abdicated that responsibility for the sake of his own comfort. He watched his wife drain his daughter's savings. He watched the emotional extortion of the bridesmaids. He knew his corporate pension was gone, yet he chose to let his wife commit federal wire fraud rather than admit to his wealthy neighbors that they were struggling. Thomas represents a profound warning about the nature of complicity. Family responsibility means having the courage to lean into the uncomfortable, agonizing conversations. It means standing up for the child who is being wronged, even if the person wronging them is your spouse. Peace maintained at the expense of a child's soul is not peace at all. It is simply a delayed war. When parents fail to operate as a united front of moral clarity, the home becomes a fractured landscape where children are forced to raise themselves. Sadie's triumph is a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, but it is also a somber reminder of what happens when children have to become their own protectors. She had to weaponize her own composure, relying on her analytical mind to build the boundaries her parents should have naturally provided. She walked away with her identity intact, her credit restored, and her peace secured. But she had to burn her family tree to the roots to do it. These stories are difficult to hear, but they are vital. They hold a mirror up to the dark corners of our own living rooms, forcing us to ask hard questions about the values we are passing down to the next generation. Are we raising our children to value character over capital? Are we loving them for who they are, or for what they represent to our neighbors? Navigating the complex, often painful dynamics of family relationships requires shared wisdom and a willingness to listen to the hard truths. If you found a piece of yourself in this reflection, if you have ever had to build your own sanctuary from the ground up, I invite you to join our community. Follow the Eva Tells Stories channel. Here we explore the deep, unfiltered realities of human connection, sharing narratives that validate our struggles and illuminate the path toward healing. As we turn off the lights and lock our own front doors tonight, we are left to ponder the invisible legacies we leave behind. A house can be filled with expensive linen, imported hydrangeas, and golden invitations, yet remain entirely empty. We spend our lives trying to build a foundation that will outlast us, hoping that our children will inherit our best traits. But sometimes, in the quiet dark, when the guests have all gone home and the music has stopped, you have to wonder, what exactly is taking root in the soil of your own family? Are you planting seeds of honesty that will weather the coming storms, or are you just arranging cut flowers in a crystal vase, waiting for the petals to inevitably fall?